Disappeared on Saturday, October 22nd, 2005. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Tara Grinstead's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A small-town beauty queen, loved by all.
If you were ever Tara's friend, you would be her friend for life.
Vanishes under baffling circumstances.
There can be an abduction with no indication of a struggle.
She gave me the impression that he acted like he was not himself.
He claimed that he was a serial killer.
A massive police investigation thrusts a tiny town into the national spotlight.
There was a latex glove.
There's all kinds of reasons why people kill others.
I've been involved in some major investigations, but this one has had more twists and turns.
It's worse than death. Death is final. Someone vanishing, it's not final until you find them.
On the day she disappears, high school teacher Tara Grinstead spends the afternoon with some of her students. They're preparing for the Miss Georgia Sweet Potato Pageant, a big event in a small, close-knit town like Ocilla, Georgia.
On that Saturday, Tara had helped a lot of the girls prepare for the pageant. She had done their hair and their makeup.
A lot of them borrowed her dresses as well. And she had so much fun. She had a really good time with the girls. You know, they had snacks and had lunch.
Tara has an especially close relationship with many of her students.
I never heard anybody say a bad thing about Tara. They related really well to her. She always went the extra mile to help her kids, and she made class so much fun.
Most of Tara's students would say, well, she's my teacher, but she's also my friend.
Tara has been involved in beauty pageants since her high school years, but has her own agenda about the competitions.
Pageanting was not for show and not for everybody to tell her she's beautiful. I think it gave her self-confidence, number one. I think it bettered her self-esteem.
Contestant number 2.
In 1999, Tara won the title of Miss Tifton, Georgia. That victory gave her the opportunity to compete in the Miss Georgia pageant.
Once you accomplish one of your dreams, I mean, how often do you get to do that? And she did by going to Miss Georgia.
Tara doesn't win the Miss Georgia pageant, but her family says that for her, winning was never the most important thing.
I never saw in her that winning a pageant was an ego thing. It was not about just the title of winning. It was always about accomplishing something.
Tara's goal had always been education. She succeeds in funding her entire undergraduate education with money earned from pageants.
She knew college is expensive and it was going to be tough on her, and she did not want to burden her mother any more than she had to.
After getting her bachelor's degree in education, Tara works full-time and takes graduate classes at night, working steadily toward her ultimate goal, a PhD in education.
She had gotten a 6-year degree in administration, and that was what she was pursuing her doctorate in. I think she eventually wanted to be a high school principal.
That Saturday night, a happy and relaxed Tara leaves the sweet potato pageant and heads over to a cookout attended by friends from school.
Tara stayed at the cookout for about 2 hours and left at approximately 11 o'clock p.m., ostensibly to go home.
She said she was going to watch the video of the pageant, and then she was going to go to bed.
In a small town like Ocilla, neighbors look out for each other. Because she lives alone, Tara and her next-door neighbors have a system for saying, "I'm home and all is well."
Every night when she came home, the first thing she would do was go into her room and turn on the lamp in the bedroom. The neighbors would look out and they would see that lamp on, and it would kind of be a signal to them, well, Tara's made it home.
That night, the light in Tara's window never goes on. The next day, nobody sees Tara. No one is able to contact her, including her mother.
The more that she called and the longer that the time went on that Tara didn't call her back, she started to get concerned.
Sometimes people just want to be left alone. But I can't imagine her ever ignoring her mother's phone call.
On Monday morning, Tara doesn't show up to teach her classes at Irwin County High School. Friends and family know that something is very wrong.
That was a red flag for me because I knew what a dedicated teacher Tara was.
Tara had never missed a day of school without prearranging a substitute teacher.
One of Tara's friends calls Ocilla Police Chief Billy Hancock.
He indicated to me that Tara had not been seen over the last day, that if the school had been contacted, she had not shown up there.
Chief Hancock arrives at Tara's residence at approximately 10 a.m. on Monday. Her car is parked in its usual spot under the carport.
The fact that her car was there and she wasn't meant that she probably left with someone.
The doors of the car are unlocked. Oddly, there is an envelope containing $100 in cash left in the center console.
I would think it'd be unusual for anybody to leave that amount of cash in the car and leave it unlocked.
That's not like Tara to have money laying around any place.
Inside Tara's house, however, everything looks fairly normal.
There was no sign of forcible entry. There was no clear indication that any kind of struggle had occurred inside.
Both the exterior and interior of Tara's residence are photographed in detail.
Every room was photographed thoroughly to capture, what the condition of the house was at the time of our arrival.
Clothing and accessories scattered around the floor help police reconstruct some of Tara's last known movements.
The clothes Tara was wearing on the night of October 22nd were on the floor in her bedroom, which indicated to us that she had indeed arrived home. Her bed appeared as if possibly somebody had either slept in it or laid in it.
Her cell phone was in the charger. It was still there in the charger. And to us, it indicates that she left the house with intentions of coming back. She knew she wasn't going to be gone long enough to have use of her cell phone.
Investigators locate more intriguing clues outside Tara's house. A business card is wedged into her front door. They find something far more disturbing on the ground.
Initial law enforcement officers who arrived immediately spotted a latex glove lying in the grass in the front yard, several feet away from the front door.
Then I really got scared.
For investigators, the latex glove is an ominous indicator of foul play.
It certainly indicated to us that there was a strong likelihood that a crime had occurred. It would imply that whoever was using it was trying to avoid being detected.
The latex glove's not something that all of us have. I think somebody had it very specifically so that they would not leave a trace.
Our gut feeling upon processing Tara's residence was that a crime had occurred.
Coming up, police investigate the men in Tara's life and uncover some troubling leads.
She gave me the impression that he acted like he was not stable.
After a day spent with friends and colleagues, 30-year-old high school teacher Tara Grinstead has vanished.
I have never known Tara to just take off without letting somebody know. I'm not aware of any time that she ever did that. Everybody might not know, but somebody always knew where she was.
By the time local police arrive at her residence, nobody has seen or heard from Tara for almost 2 days.
Everybody knew that she just had not, gone off for a couple of days, that something had happened, something serious had happened to Tara.
Due to the urgent nature of the case, Ocilla Police request the assistance of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
When a person goes missing and we're asked to investigate, we operate with the premise that we're going to presume the worst and hope for the best.
To investigators, a latex glove found near Tara's front door makes it look like someone was attempting to cover up a crime.
Either there was an abduction of Tara in which someone wore gloves, or they returned to the scene and accidentally dropped the glove.
Besides the glove, police have few indications that a crime took place.
To us, there was no clear sign of a struggle. However, that doesn't affect how you proceed in an investigation, because there can be an abduction with no indication of a struggle. It'd be quite easy to take someone out of their house at gunpoint and there'd be no disturbance whatsoever.
My gut feeling is that somebody came by and she left with someone that she knew, and that something horrible happened after that.
Tara's family begins to fear that they might not ever see her again. Meanwhile, the lack of a crime scene presents a daunting challenge to investigators.
In a typical criminal investigation, you have an outcome against which you can measure evidence and theories. In a missing persons case, you don't have that outcome, so you can't measure anything against anything. Everything remains in play.
Law enforcement seals Tara's house and takes her car and the latex glove in for evidence processing.
We actually had a crime lab scientist on the phone immediately who was preparing a plan as to how to handle that latex glove to maximize the possibility of the recovery of evidence.
Tara has been missing for 12 hours. That evening, at Irwin County High School, students and teachers band together in an effort to find her.
The first flyer that was made just basically had a picture of Tara and just had the words missing on it. It just described her height and weight and color of her hair and her eyes.
The students are coming up and they're like, what can we do? We can't just stand around. And I was so touched that, these kids did that. And, they did this until like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Tara's fellow teachers and students design and then distribute hundreds of flyers throughout the Ocilla area.
Posters were everywhere in this community. I mean, they were on light poles, in business windows, on cars, just almost everywhere imaginable.
Georgia Bureau of Investigation agents interview all of Tara's neighbors and conduct an extensive search of her neighborhood.
Also, some tracking dogs were brought in to try to see if they could pick up on any kind of scent of Tara, to see if she had gone somewhere on foot that we might be able to find her.
Both the canvas and the search dogs turn up nothing of value to investigators. Searching for clues, they delve deeply into Tara's background.
You learn as much about the victim as you can, their timeline, their propensities, their associates.
They learn that Tara's circle of acquaintances was huge, from her second job at a department store makeup counter to the various campuses where she took graduate classes.
She had been going to school at night for several years, working on her master's and her specialist degree, so that involved a lot of students that she had met that obviously we would not know.
But it is closer to home that investigators uncover a deeper mystery.
A lot of disappearance cases, you kind of have an immediate focus. You have, a close associate, a boyfriend, or what have you, ex-husband, husband. In this case, what we learned was Tara had several such associates.
Looking into Tara's personal life, they find a complex series of relationships with men.
Tara was involved romantically with several different persons in a close period of time, and she kept those relationships separate from one another.
Investigators focus first on Tara's ex-boyfriend, Marcus Harper.
Tara had a long-term romantic relationship with Marcus Harper. They had broken up approximately a year earlier. Tara had ended the relationship because she believed Marcus wasn't ready to get married.
Investigators learn that Harper served in the Ocilla Police Department for 4 years and then enlisted in the United States Army Rangers in 2001.
And she's very proud of him and what he accomplished because he was really good at what he did.
Investigators from the GBI conduct a series of interviews with Marcus Harper.
We interviewed Marcus Harper the very first day and talked to him several times after that.
Over the years that the couple was together, Tara's friends and family got to know Marcus well.
They really looked like a great couple. I mean, he was big and strong, and she was, they were like a really good couple, and I think that they enjoyed each other.
Anytime that we were around Marcus, we had a very good relationship with him. He was always very respectful to us. He was always respectful to Tara when we were with them.
Anita Gaddis sees her sister's relationship with Marcus quite differently.
Tara was a little bit afraid of him. He's been an Army Ranger, and the training that they have is just unbelievable. The things that they can do, the things that they survive. And we stayed in touch with him during his training, and I know what he was able to survive. So I know what the guy's made of.
Despite the differing perceptions within her family, investigators find no history of violence in Tara and Marcus's relationship. But they discover that several months before she disappeared, Tara did experience the threat of violence at the hands of one of her former students.
He had gone over to her house one afternoon in March of 2005. He wanted to speak to her.
The 20-year-old graduated from Irwin County High School the previous year. After taking Tara's history class, he developed a fondness for her.
They had a closer relationship upon his graduation. He would speak to her and see her from time to time.
I just thought it was, one of her students that had, a crush on Tara because she was so beautiful and so sweet to all of her students. And he was the soul that Tara would have wanted to help.
But according to friends, Tara had expressed concern about her former student's behavior.
She had told me she'd been having trouble with him, like kind of getting a little too attached to her or whatever, and kind of got an impression that he was not stable.
Months before Tara disappeared, he came to her house and tried to physically force his way inside.
He wanted to speak to her, and she didn't want to talk to him at that time, and she wouldn't let him in the house, and he became quite upset, loud, began yelling and banging on her door, trying to gain entry.
That was a very violent situation. Neighbors actually had to call the police because he was so loud.
I was yelling and screaming through the door and banging on the door, and she gave me the impression that he acted like he was not himself.
Coming up, in the weeks before she disappears, Tara's personal life begins to unravel.
She called hysterically. I said, "Tara, are you okay? You are not thinking about suicide."
30-year-old Tara Grinstead has been missing for 24 hours. Agents from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation learn that 7 months earlier, one of Tara's former students appeared uninvited at her home and tried to force his way inside.
He wanted to speak to her. She did not come to the door. He began to bang on the door. Basically, there started to become a disturbance.
I don't know if he read some signals wrong or if he just had a crush on her that he took too far.
I believe she just thought he might go away, but I think she realized that he wasn't going away, so she came to the door. They spoke briefly, and I think she tried to go back inside. She then started to shut her door, and he grabbed her on the arm. She pulled away and was able to shut the door.
At the time, Ocilla police are unable to get the former student to calm down, so he is arrested for disorderly conduct. According to Tara's handwritten statement to police, he invaded my privacy in my own home. While doing so in a raging and out-of-control manner, I was very scared for my well-being, as well as concerned about him.
His actions at the house did concern us, that there was some sort of a connection between he and Tara.
She never told me that she had any kind of inappropriate relationship with him. I don't think she did.
Still, the former student's strange behavior is reason enough for investigators to look for a connection with Tara's disappearance.
We thought it critical to interview him immediately. He was working at a job in Milledgeville, Georgia, about 100 miles away, and we immediately had an agent in that area find him.
The former student is able to account for his time on the night that Tara disappeared. Meanwhile, investigators keep digging into Marcus Harper and his relationship with Tara. In February of 2002, Marcus was deployed to Afghanistan. According to her sister, the separation and distance became difficult for Tara to deal with.
She said she really could not stay in that kind of relationship because if they go overseas and something bad happens to them, you never find them, nobody knows anything.
I could tell after that things changed a lot for them. He changed and their relationship changed. But she just didn't want to quit. She loved him.
Tara and Marcus end their relationship, but remain in close contact.
They still saw each other occasionally. They still talked and emailed and called. And so Tara took that as there was still some kind of relationship.
Then, 3 weeks before Tara disappears, Marcus returns home to Ocilla, but doesn't contact her.
He had not told Tara he was home. Tara found out that he was back in Ocilla in Irwin County from a third party, and that made her very upset.
That really devastated her. She felt betrayed, and at that point I said, okay, look, he didn't want you to know he was back. And I remember saying to her, you know, now it's the time you move on, but she just could not quite get over Marcus.
Investigators learn that Tara calls Marcus from her car and confronts him about not getting in touch.
She was coming back from class in Waycross when she had engaged in a telephone conversation with Marcus Harper.
Marcus tells Tara that their relationship is over once and for all. According to friends and family, she has an emotional breakdown on the road.
She called hysterically and just felt like she was not able to drive. And one person went and picked her up, and the other passenger drove her car home. So they took her back to her house, and from what I understand, you know, they had to carry her in, and she was just so, you know, hysterical, crying.
Tara's fragile emotional state worries those closest to her.
I said, Tara, I mean, in these exact words, do you need anything? Do we need to do anything for you? Are you okay? You are not thinking about suicide. No, I promise you, I'm not, and that is not it. She said, I'm a little depressed, which everybody gets, but I am not suicidal.
Tara's family believes that she would never have committed suicide, regardless of how depressed she may have been over Marcus.
She was just not that type of person. She would not have done that to our mother. There's absolutely no way, regardless of how, you know, distraught or upset she was.
Agents at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation come to the same conclusion.
The possibility of suicide was something that was certainly considered, but after a few days and she hadn't been found, it made it much less likely, because when one commits suicide, it's quite difficult to dispose of your own body. So we believe that had that occurred, we would have found her already.
In the meantime, investigators continue to gather information from Marcus Harper. In a series of interviews, he accounts for his time on the night Tara disappeared.
He said that on Saturday night he had gone to the White Horse Saloon in Fitzgerald, where he visited with some friends until approximately 2 in the morning.
After that, Marcus says he met up with his friend and former partner on the Ocilla Police Department and spent the night in a police cruiser, doing a ride-along.
We were able to corroborate that as best it could be corroborated. There was, no point that he didn't cooperate with us in the investigation.
For the moment, investigators' focus shifts away from Marcus Harper. Then, the business card found on Tara's front door provides a new lead. Agents learn that it belongs to a police officer from a nearby town, a married man.
We learned that he and Tara were very close. He had been trying to contact Tara all day Sunday and had left a number of messages on her answering machine.
A neighbor tells police that he was a frequent visitor to Tara's house.
He went down there and left his card in the door so that when she got home that she would know that he had been by there.
Investigators interview the officer, and he provides an alibi for his time the night Tara disappeared.
He was interviewed and gave a very thorough timeline of his actions over the last couple of weeks.
They put his family through questioning and the people he was with that night. The thing is if he had anything to do with it, he wouldn't have gone down there and left a business card in the door,
Four days after Tara's disappearance, investigators find themselves back at square one. Desperate to uncover tangible evidence, they organize a large-scale search for Tara.
A organized, comprehensive ground search took place of the entire perimeter of Irwin County.
We had horses, we had airplanes, people volunteered, we had four-wheelers, four-wheel drive vehicles, we had people walking.
The massive search effort uses every tool available in Irwin County's arsenal. Dozens of agencies and hundreds of volunteer searchers take part in the effort to find Tara.
It's a very emotional thing, especially when you know the area they're going, when you know they're looking in open deep wells, when you know they're going through swamps, when you know they're looking in abandoned grain bins.
It was pretty intense. It was long hours, long hours. Usually the searches would go on from, say, 9 o'clock 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning until dark.
Most of them did not know Tara. They had never met Tara. And you've got hundreds of strangers coming to search for this beautiful person that has vanished.
Despite the massive effort, none of the searches come up with any evidence related to Tara's disappearance.
It makes you feel helpless because, you know, you want to solve these problems and, you know, you want to catch the bad guy. There's one involved.
The one thing good that came out that we didn't find her, you know, was what it gave us hope, of course, that she was still alive.
With the search effort yielding no leads, the latex glove found in Tara's yard looms as a piece of potentially critical evidence. Since it was recovered, forensic tests have been ongoing, but agents are circumspect.
We weren't real hopeful that we would be able to retrieve meaningful DNA or fingerprint evidence from it, but we had to try. So once we obtained the glove, we took it to the GBI crime lab in Atlanta.
Forensic scientists put the glove through a battery of tests, including one looking for the presence of DNA. It's a long shot, because according to police, it's very difficult to recover useful evidence from latex gloves.
If you process for fingerprints first, it will destroy DNA evidence. If you process for DNA evidence, you may destroy or somehow cause problems with the fingerprint evidence. They basically cut it up based on the probability of which section of the glove would reveal which type of evidence and processed it accordingly.
We all watch TV, and on CSI, you know, they do the DNA, and, you know, we know everything within 30 minutes, but, I mean, it's weeks and weeks and weeks to get results back. And, you know, it's very frustrating to just, you know, sit and wait.
Despite the long odds, investigators hit the jackpot.
We were able to recover both fingerprint evidence and DNA evidence.
The fingerprints found on the glove are only partial prints, limiting their use in the investigation.
Fortunately, we also had DNA on the glove, male DNA.
Thanks to the DNA evidence, GBI agents finally have a powerful lead in Tara's disappearance.
The DNA evidence lets us know that a male was at Tara's house and either wearing or had a glove in their possession.
Coming up, police look for a DNA match, believing that person may be responsible for Tara's disappearance.
We began swabbing pretty much any associate of Tara's that we came across.
And later,
Volunteers are back searching for Tara Grinstead.
the news media descends on Ocilla, potentially compromising the investigation.
When you lose control of the flow of information, you don't know what you lost.
The investigation into Tara Grinstead's disappearance has been in full force for 10 days. Investigators recovered DNA evidence from the latex glove found at Tara's residence, suggesting that an unknown male was on Tara's property during the time she disappeared.
We knew that we were looking for a male potential offender. So at that point, we ensured that we obtained DNA samples from most everyone we could associate with Tara.
She met hundreds of people every day, and she was such a personable person and smiled, and she would introduce herself to anybody.
Any male that came in contact with Tara, whether it was at her high school, at one of the colleges she went to, there's very few people that I know that they haven't swabbed.
Agents collect the DNA of 144 men that had any contact with Tara, no matter how distant.
Essentially, all you do is take a swab of the inside of someone's cheek and submit that swab for comparison against the questioned DNA. In our case, the DNA from the glove.
But when the samples of DNA are compared, there is no match with any of Tara's male associates. Investigators find no match with the National DNA Database either.
We've investigated everyone that we know of that was closely associated with Tara, and we can't find anything to indicate that any of them are responsible for her disappearance.
But investigators can't eliminate any of the men in Tara's life either. They might have had an accomplice whose DNA was left on the glove.
Maybe someone was involved in moving Tara's body. Maybe someone was involved in cleaning up, whatever evidence may have been at her residence before we arrived.
The lack of conclusive evidence frustrates investigators. Although each of Tara's close male associates provide credible alibis, none can account for every minute of their time during the 34 hours between when Tara was last seen and when she was discovered missing.
It's difficult for anyone to account for every hour of every day and provide an alibi for that. There are times that they're alone and nobody knows exactly what they're doing.
Because so much is unknown, investigators still need to consider all possibilities surrounding Tara's disappearance.
She left on her own, that she was trying to make some point to resolve one of her relationships, that any of these people that we encountered in the first day or days thereafter could have gotten into an altercation with her, or that there could be just a random offender out there that saw Tara as a crime of opportunity. Nothing was beyond the possibility, and nothing is. So as much as we'd love to clear people, say that they had no involvement, we're unable to do so because we don't know what happened to Tara.
As time drags on and Tara isn't found, investigators face an unexpected new challenge.
Turning our attention now to the case of that missing Georgia high school teacher, Tara Grinstead.
Volunteers are back searching for Tara Grinstead.
Growing attention from the national news media makes a sensitive investigation difficult to manage.
The entire interior of the residence and exterior was being broadcast as newscaster after newscaster toured the residence, videoed it, and put it on the air.
Your possible crime scene is all of a sudden exposed to the national media. That's just something that law enforcement isn't used to having happen.
According to both Ocilla Police and the GBI, confidential details of their investigation are reported by the news media without their knowledge or consent.
Things that were in the residence that we might have used to trip up somebody in an interview was gone.
Investigators never wanted their discovery of the latex glove to become public knowledge, but it did.
Once it became public, anyone that we interviewed that may have been responsible for Tara's disappearance and was the one that left that glove knew we had it. You might think that he had dropped it somewhere else, or may not even realize he'd left the glove behind at all.
Equally troubling, private citizens set up tip lines, but sometimes neglect to share information with law enforcement.
One well-known tip line was actually going to the cell phone of a bounty hunter. What information may have been lost because of that, I can't imagine. When you lose control of the flow of information, you don't know what you lost.
The sometimes intrusive media coverage also stokes the fires of accusation.
With all the media attention, there were a lot of armchair sleuths all over the country that were contacting us and some conducting their own investigation.
One website, called Backward State, goes so far as to present excerpts from one of GBI agent Gary Rothwell's television interviews, played backwards. The amateur sleuth claims that the interview audio played in reverse reveals hidden clues about the people responsible for Tara's disappearance.
I was identifying the true offender, and all you had to do was play my interview backwards. It was amazing.
Then, perhaps due to the media blitz, several new tips promising information into Tara's disappearance come in.
I got a phone call and was told that there had been a fire not too far out of town, and they said, I don't want to upset you, but I just need to prepare you. There is a chance that it could be connected to Tara.
There was a residence a few miles from Ocilla where a house burned and a vehicle burned. There were some theories developed that arson was used to cover up evidence of Tara's abduction.
GBI agents and support personnel go to the burned-out house to investigate.
We headed to that scene as fast as possible, coordinating, having appropriate personnel to process it.
Anytime there's burned bodies or the remains of something are found, it's the first thing that goes through my mind, is it her?
But the search effort yields nothing.
Nothing at the arson scene was found that could be associated with Tara.
In the beginning, Every time what sounded like a viable tip would come in, we would immediately think, this is it. After the first probably 2 or 3 times then that happened, you learn to be guarded in your optimism.
Over the next few months, more tips come in, but none bring investigators any closer to finding Tara.
There's been many times when we had what we call he ain't right moments, where we've encountered people in this investigation that their behaviors didn't seem appropriate. That's happened lots of times. Unfortunately, we haven't found evidence to support those feelings. Most of the time, we found evidence completely to the contrary.
Three years go by without any meaningful leads. Then, there is a bizarre development in the case.
I've decided to confess a few things. I've decided to do it on YouTube because there's millions of people that can help play my game.
With his face and voice digitally distorted, a man calling himself the Catch Me Killer posts an anonymous video online.
I want to confess to 16 murders. But in order to do so, I'm going to give everybody a clue. Many clues.
He claimed that he was a serial killer. He claimed that he had murdered 16 people, and he alluded to the fact that Tara was one of them.
The video doesn't refer to Tara by name, but cites details that clearly identify her, including the date of her disappearance.
He claimed that he had slit her throat, and he made reference to her screams into the night and said something about, but my blade, she could not fight. It was just horrible things that he said.
It was almost a sickening feeling to have an individual get up there and say those kind of things.
The GBI quickly launches an investigation to identify and apprehend the man claiming to have murdered Tara Grinstead.
Here we have a guy who's basically claiming that he's killed a woman we've been looking for 4 years. We had to find him.
Coming up, investigators zero in on the Catch Me Killer.
We executed search warrants on the basis that Tara was a victim of a crime and that he was the perpetrator. We were looking for evidence of her disappearance and possible murder.
By February 2009, Tara Grinstead has been missing for almost 3.5 years. There are still no suspects in her disappearance. But now, a man calling himself the Catch Me Killer posts an anonymous video online. With his voice and likeness digitally obscured, he claims to have killed 16 people, including Tara Grinstead.
Once all 16 bodies are found, you'll know exactly who I am, because I have knowledge that the police know about, the FBI know about, but you don't.
Investigators note that the Catch Me Killer appears to possess intimate knowledge of Tara's life.
He described Tara's occupation, Tara's participation in beauty pageants, locations on Highway 32, which ran right through Ocilla, Georgia. There was no question he was talking about Tara.
I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, just hanging on every minute for information. I thought, you know, this is what we've been waiting for, and this is going to be the answer. We're going to finally know what happened to her.
Officials from several agencies join forces to track down the self-confessed killer. Agents get search warrants in order to locate the computer used to post the video.
What we did is ultimately traced the posting of that YouTube video to a couple of locations in Gainesville, Georgia, in Hall County, Georgia.
Investigators identify the man behind the video as Andrew Scott Haley. They raid his home and other locations in Georgia and seize his computer, camera, and writings. Within hours, they determine that Haley's video confession is a hoax.
He thought it was just a game, and he thought he could dupe people, and he somehow took pleasure in doing that. I don't think he gave any consideration to the harm that he was causing the victims' families and others that cared about Tara.
I still cannot understand what this person must have said to himself every day to justify what he was doing and to tell himself that it was okay. This was not a teenage prank. This was a grown, married man with children of his own.
Haley Billy is found guilty of felony tampering with evidence and making false statements, and sentenced to 10 years in prison. As a first offender, he'll serve just 2 years in a work-release jail. Today, the Grinstead case file is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's biggest active case. Finding Tara still hinges on making a DNA match to the latex glove found outside her home.
It's almost amazing that we haven't gotten a hit yet. If someone is responsible for Tara's disappearance, it's highly likely we haven't talked to them yet.
Investigators still believe the case will eventually be solved.
We have evidence. We have DNA evidence. We have fingerprint evidence. It's not like we have nothing. We have a lot of information. We just don't know what it all means.
In the meantime, Tara's family and friends continue to wait.
Is she gone? Is she dead? When you just don't know any answers, you don't have a way of controlling your emotions.
It's a horrible situation for anybody to have to go through. It's worse than death. Death is final. Someone vanishing, it's not final until you find them.
You see how hurt these people are at the loss or disappearance of their loved one, and you want to put an end to that.
I've never experienced anything like that. I do have girls of my own. I just can't imagine what it would feel like if one of those were in a situation like Tara.
With Tara missing now for more than 5 years, her family is desperate for closure on their tragedy.
I just feel like her family deserves the truth. Anybody's family deserves to know the truth.
We wanted to believe and still believe that somebody out there has the information that we're looking for, and for whatever reason has just not found the courage to come forward with it.
We're at the point now where we used to pray that we wouldn't find her. Now we're afraid we won't, and we pray that we will, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of, what we find.
Thank you for watching Investigation Discovery on Demand.
Nikki McCowan disappeared on Sunday, July 22nd, 2001. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Nikki McCowan's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A young woman with everything to live for
She's gonna marry the man of her dreams.
vanishes from an ordinary laundromat,
Nobody has any answers as to where she went and what happened.
turning a family's life upside down.
You're living a nightmare. You just wish you could wake up.
It never dawned in our wildest imaginations that we may not see this woman again.
The case stumps police
The case goes cold on us. It just dries up.
until an unsolved murder of a different woman offers clues.
It was an anonymous tip, and they just stated that we needed to look at him as a possible suspect.
Does someone know what happened to Nikki McCowan?
Until they can prove it to me, she's still alive to me.
July 22nd, 2001. It's a summer Sunday in Richmond, Indiana. And as usual, 28-year-old Nikki McCowan attends church with her fiancé, Bobby Webster. Their wedding is just 3 weeks away.
We're getting married August 18th and pretty much taking care of the final steps and stages to getting that taken care of.
Weeks earlier, Nikki McCowan was a bridesmaid at another wedding. A friend's camera captured the only known home video of Nikki.
Hi, Mia. Hi, Al. I just want to congratulate you and say I love you.
August 18th, Nikki was going to become Mrs. Robert Webster, and she was really, really looking forward to it.
She was thrilled. I mean, yes, that's all she talked about. She finally had the man of her dreams.
Nikki McCowan and Bobby Webster had dated in high school. But they went their separate ways after he left for California in 1991. Nikki moved on to other relationships, and at 19, gave birth to a little girl she named Peyton.
She loved being a mother. Peyton's her world. She wanted Peyton to have the finer things in life, so she busted her butt.
To support Peyton and herself, Nikki worked for a correctional center in Dayton, Ohio.
She started out as just a guard, and from there she worked her way up to a head accountant. She really excelled in just about anything she went after.
She had long-term goals. Nikki wanted to be either an FBI agent or a U.S. Marshal. She was going to school. She was taking some criminal justice classes.
In 1998, Bobby Webster returned from California. Older and more mature, he decided Nikki was the woman for him, and he proposed marriage.
What attracted me to Nikki was her strong will. She knew what she wanted, and she went out and got the things that she did want, and her mind was made up before she even started.
Nikki's parents and her 9 siblings are thrilled.
This was the way it was supposed to be, you know. She was going to be happy.
That Sunday afternoon, in July of 2001, Nikki and Bobby busy themselves with wedding preparations and household chores.
I had made plans to go with my cousin, Billy, to get his tuxedo sized. And she took my vehicle and she took the laundry, and she said she was going to knock out the laundry while I was at the mall.
Around noon, Nikki heads to her parents to drop off her daughter Peyton before going to a nearby laundromat.
Last thing I said to Nikki was, I'll be back by 4 or 5 to do the wedding invitations that evening.
A few hours later, Nikki drops by her parents' house again, while her clothes are in the dryer. During this visit, Nikki seems agitated.
Something was really bugging her, like she couldn't throw it off. I kept saying, now calm down, Nikki, calm down, you're gonna be okay.
Nikki tells her mom that there are some men hassling her down at the laundromat.
And I said, well, Nikki, if it's troubling you that much, my washer and dryer is downstairs. Just go get your clothes and bring them here and finish drying them down there. She said, I'll be okay, Mom.
Minutes later, Nikki leaves her parents to return to the laundromat.
She said, I'll be back, Mom. And I said, okay, and that's it.
When Bobby returns from the tuxedo store later that afternoon, Nikki is not yet home.
I didn't see the laundry there or my truck. She kicks her sandals off the doorway. And I think that's the first thing I noticed. Her sandals weren't there, but, you know, I just figured that I'd gotten home before she did.
2 hours later, Nikki still hasn't returned. Bobby begins to worry.
The time I thought something may be wrong was between 6 and 7 with no phone call or anything. And then from that point, it went to another hour. There's been no word.
Around 6:30 p.m., Nikki's sister Michelle is visiting another sister, Tammy.
She asked me if I seen Nikki. I said, no, I ain't seen Nikki. Why? What's wrong? She was like, Bobby's been calling, looking around for her. He can't find her. I was like, oh, she's probably out shopping or something.
When Nikki is late to pick up her daughter Peyton, her mother assumes she's at work.
I just said, oh, she's all right. I said, you know how Nikki sometimes, just on the spur of the moment, will jump in her car and go over to Ohio because she worked there.
At the apartment where Nikki lives with Bobby and Peyton, there are no signs that her absence is anything more than temporary. Her essentials are still on her bedside table.
She left her purse, her ID, her clothes was all there. There was nothing missing outside of the laundry that she took with her to go to the laundry.
As night falls and Nikki fails to return, the McCowans become increasingly anxious.
Everybody seemed a little concerned, but the last thing we would think that she was missing.
But by 10 p.m., Nikki's fiance senses that something is very wrong.
The first thing went through my mind is something has happened as far as a vehicle accident or something like that.
We drove to Dayton to see if she might have been stuck or she didn't have a cell phone or anything, way to call nobody.
The family checks along the highway, but there is no sign of Nikki. By 2 a.m., the McCowans are racked with worry.
Everybody seemed really, really concerned. It seemed like it was really starting to hit everybody at that time.
Nikki's father insists the family go to police immediately and fill out a missing persons report.
When he did that, I knew something was up because he was always the one that says, out of all my kids, this is the one I know can handle anything.
But now, in the space of a single Sunday afternoon, the McCowans' world has been thrown into chaos.
My head got to spinning. Where is Nikki?
Coming up, suspicion focuses on someone close to Nikki.
There wasn't a question that he was being deceitful or lying.
On Sunday, July 22nd, 2001, 28-year-old bride-to-be Nikki McCowan disappears from a laundromat in Richmond, Indiana.
She loved life. She lived it to the fullest.
It never dawned in our wildest imaginations that we may not see this woman again. I mean, that was the last thing to cross our mind.
It's the day after Nikki disappeared. Her family has filed a missing persons report. But initially, police see no reason to be concerned.
There were no phone calls indicating any trouble. There were no indicators that any harm had come to her.
That afternoon, Nikki's family locates a surveillance video taken at a deli near the laundromat.
The village pantry did show her stopping in. I think she may have purchased a Coke or something. At that moment, nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
The video adds to the police's impression that nothing is wrong.
We can see her car sitting on the lot, and then we see her leaving, and no one following her.
Earlier that Sunday afternoon, Nikki told her mother she'd been hassled at the laundromat. Police check, but no one remembers seeing anything.
They had no information that was any altercations outside the laundromat. Nothing really raised red flags on it.
Police instead speculate that Nikki may have voluntarily left her fiancé.
We thought, well, okay, were they fighting, were they arguing, or does she have cold feet? And just decide that, hey, I'm taking off.
The members of Nikki's family disagree. They don't believe Nikki would willfully disappear.
She would not leave Peyton. I knew this wasn't her. And she wanted this wedding so bad, so why would she walk away from it?
Nikki's sister decides to make her job the test.
I knew she didn't miss work. Work was Nikki's life.
If Nikki doesn't show up at the Montgomery Pre-Release Center in Dayton, then something awful has happened.
They buzzed me in, and I came in, said, have she showed up for work yet? They said, no, we haven't seen Nikki. At that moment, I broke down. I started crying my eyes out. Oh my God, what's happened to Nikki?
I went outside, and I just started walking the yard, and I said, where's she at, Lord? And I kept saying, Lord, just bring her home. I don't know where she's at, but just bring her home.
Immediately, the family hits the road in search of Nikki.
We were looking, searching, knocking on doors everywhere that we think she may have gone.
We passed out flyers, trying to get some attention for Nikki so we could get some help.
For police, Nikki's failure to show up at work also raises a red flag.
That started the process. We put investigators out checking hotels, start making phone calls.
Police also knock on doors near the laundromat, hoping to talk to people who frequent the area.
We had investigators go down there and interview people to see if they knew anything about her, remember seeing her.
This foray turns up nothing concrete. Nikki's cell phone and bank accounts also lead nowhere. And a helicopter search over Richmond and Dayton fails to find Nikki's missing vehicle. Despite the lack of physical leads, police soon hone in on a possible suspect. It's the man Nikki was planning to marry. In the days after Nikki's disappearance, Bobby Webster's actions strike investigators as suspicious. The day after she goes missing, he calls the community college where Nikki was taking classes and wants to collect her unused tuition money.
Right off the bat, he calls the college and is wanting all of her college money. He gets so irate with the person he talks to on the phone, lady that's in charge of the financing, talks to him and tells him that she has no money, that her college is being paid by her employer. We find out that on Wednesday, he goes to the jewelry store and tries to take back the wedding rings that she had purchased for him.
By midweek, police say, Bobby Webster has canceled the wedding and demanded the deposit back. Word of Bobby's actions reaches Nikki's family.
He's talking about canceling the wedding, like he knew she wasn't coming back. Why would you cancel a wedding so fast? Nikki wanted to get married so bad, so why are you already automatically giving up on her?
Bobby denies canceling the wedding.
I never told anyone it was even canceled. But at that time, it's obvious the last thing on my mind is this wedding. I want Nikki, and then the wedding is second to that.
He also denies trying to wring money out of Nikki's college.
Yes, I inquired about her student loan, but I wasn't trying to get it.
The ring, he says, was returned for good reason.
I just wanted the deposit back to buy a cell phone because we didn't have one at the time, and there was so much running around involved. I just thought that might be a tool that would help us.
Nevertheless, police ask Bobby Webster to take a polygraph test.
One of the questions that they ask him is, did you have anything to do with the disappearance of Nikki McCowan, or do you know anything about her disappearance? And he said no, and according to the polygraph operator, it about blew the needle off the chart, indicating that he was lying to us.
The question that we're asked was, do I feel responsible? Who isn't going to feel responsible for not being there to protect their woman if they think she was in a position where she needed help?
In spite of Bobby Webster's actions and the failed polygraph test, police do not arrest him.
We still have no evidence to link him to any crime.
There's no proof at this point that anything happened. They don't have any evidence to suggest that, you know, there was a murder, that anybody did anything that they shouldn't have to Nikki McCown.
All Richmond detectives can do is label Nikki's fiancé a person of interest.
The person of interest, by definition, is someone who is able to give the police information that can help them with a case.
He knows something more than what he's telling us, and it's a matter of trying to get him to talk.
I have no knowledge of anything that happened to my fiancée, Nikki McCowan, that day. Why would I want to do anything to the most wonderful person in my life?
Webster believes that the police's focus on him is using up valuable time in the investigation.
You can't get any further off the scent of the trail than now messing with me. I knew that. They didn't, but I did. So I kind of had doubts that they would even solve this case.
At this point in the investigation, detectives have no other significant leads in the case. As days turn into weeks, the lack of progress angers the members of Nikki's family.
The sisters or some of the brothers would make accusations, you know, we weren't doing our job, we were looking at the wrong people.
Family members begin their own aggressive effort to chase down any and all leads.
People would tell us Nikki's in this house, and the whole family would get in a car and go there, and it would get really, really chaotic because we're like wanting to kick the door in and stuff.
For the police, the family's efforts to find Nikki go seriously overboard.
Got to the point where we'd have to threaten to arrest them.
A couple of my brothers were arrested because they were doing a lot of things they probably shouldn't have, looking for Nikki.
We may have stepped on a few people's feet. I'm not going to apologize for that because I was trying to find my baby.
Despite the efforts of both police and family, Nikki's trail goes cold. The McCowans shut Bobby Webster out of their family.
No one wants to let me know anything now. And before, I had a good relationship with the family, but it was severed.
For weeks, there are no leads. Then, 3.5 months after Nikki disappears, there's a stunning break in the case. Coming up, Nikki's car surfaces.
Oh my God, they found Nikki's vehicle. Now they can find Nikki.
Almost 4 months have passed since 28-year-old Nikki McCowan went missing from a laundromat in Richmond, Indiana. Police have tried to connect her fiancé, Bobby Webster, to her disappearance.
I felt like an outcast. I felt like everyone just locked me away in a room and just judged me. It's unfair, but it's the path I guess God chose for me to go.
Police acknowledge there's no evidence that Webster is involved.
We have a lot of information, but it doesn't take us anywhere. So that leads us to a dead end.
As hope of finding anything dims, there's a major break in the case.
We got a phone call from Montgomery County Sheriff's Department.
Nikki's vehicle has surfaced in Dayton, Ohio, 40 miles from her home in Richmond.
They had located the vehicle in an apartment complex called Meadows of Catawba.
Excited by the new lead, Richmond detectives rush to the site of the vehicle. There, they capture their first significant piece of evidence on camera.
We were elated. We thought, here we go, this is going to help us solve the case.
My heart stopped. I felt like, oh my God, they found Nikki's vehicle. Now they can find Nikki.
The vehicle has been left in the parking lot of a Dayton apartment complex. Amazingly, though Nikki disappeared almost 4 months earlier, police find her laundry. It's still inside the car.
They said the clothes were still folded, like she'd folded them up and put them in the car. There's her laundry, there's her car, so where's Nikki?
Richmond police tow the car back to Indiana and put it through a battery of tests.
We checked the inside of the car for fingerprints. We checked it for hair fibers. We checked it for blood to see if there was any blood stains.
Nothing turns up. No signs of a break-in or a struggle. No fibers and no strange fingerprints.
It was hard even for us as law enforcement officers to take because we had based our hopes so much on finding the car. It was a major disappointment for us.
It broke my heart. Now we're back to square one.
The car doesn't yield any leads, but the location where it's found does. A man named Tommy Swint lives just a quarter-mile away. It turns out he once had a complicated relationship with Nikki.
Tommy Swint was a co-worker of Nikki McCown's at the Montgomery Pre-Release Center. To what extent their relationship extended is kind of up in the air.
Detectives quickly discover that Nikki and Tommy Swint had conflicting ideas about their friendship.
He was more like a big brother to her, but in his eyes, I think that he was looking at her in a different light than she was looking at him.
They also learned that Tommy Swint had a violent streak, one that Nikki's sister Michelle had experienced years earlier.
I had stopped by Nikki's apartment. Outside, I could hear her screaming, And as I open the door, she's sitting on a chair with her foot inside his chest. He's like leaned over, and she's like, "Help, he's trying to rape me." I felt that if I hadn't stopped by that day and I hadn't walked in the door, that he may have raped Nikki.
Now, detectives want to talk to Swint. But Swint will not cooperate. And without specific evidence, police cannot force him to do anything. Like Bobby Webster, they tag him as a person of interest.
We're not saying at that point in time that he actually killed her, but he's got information that could be helpful to us to lead us to her whereabouts and what happened to her.
Despite having two persons of interest, the investigation stalls once again.
It just dries up. The case goes cold on us.
The McCowans struggle to keep Nikki's case in the public eye.
That's the thing that they tell you to do. Keep it in the media's attention. Don't let them forget.
One year after Nikki vanishes, her sisters traveled to New York to tell her story on a TV talk show. On the broadcast, a psychic named Sylvia Brown claims Nikki was murdered.
She said she died, that they killed her that day, and that we would find her body in a trench somewhere around the laundromat.
Nikki's sisters provide the information to police.
So we, in fact, did go out and look around the area. The idea of the trench and the laundromat didn't lead us anywhere.
Nikki's family keeps looking for her. In 2004, the family works with a missing persons organization offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to Nikki's return.
We thought with this amount of money that surely somebody out there that knew something would come forward. We had a press conference here on the second floor of the city building.
I just feel that this is Nikki's day. This is Nikki's day.
You got 20 days to come forth.
To be wealthy.
To come forth and get your $100,000. $100,000 is a lot of money, and I thought that one would definitely work.
So I thought this was it. Somebody's finally gonna talk. But they didn't.
As the years pass, Nikki's disappearance and the fight to find her take a huge toll on her family.
It's like you're living a nightmare and you just wish you could wake up. Your life was fine. Now you have a missing sister.
Nikki's daughter Peyton, just 9 at the time of Nikki's disappearance, grows up without a mom.
For the longest, I didn't like to hear the word mom. It was hard going around watching all kinds of daughters and moms holding hands and being happy together.
With Nikki gone, it's Nikki's mom and sisters who raise Peyton. On the 5th anniversary of her disappearance, family and friends gather to remember Nikki.
We gathered at the laundromat and we had candles lit.
Peyton, just 14, addresses the crowd and pleads for her mom's safe return.
Please, if just do it, just not for the family, just do it for your own good. Just do it because you feel bad for us or something. Just don't keep her away from us because she needs us and we need her.
Despite all their efforts, the family of Nikki McCowan cannot prevent her case slipping from public view. Then, without warning, 6 years after the investigation, a bombshell. Coming up, police learn that Nikki's former coworker is connected to an unsolved murder of a different woman. More than 5 years have passed since Nikki McCowan disappeared, leaving a trail of heartbreak and frustration for her family.
She had her whole life ahead of her.
We fought and fought and fought, and we get nowhere.
But just as the trail threatens to go completely cold, a revelation rocks the case. Six years after Nikki vanishes, Richmond detectives receive some shocking news. It concerns Tommy Swint, the man who worked with Nikki and once threatened her. Detectives still consider Swint a person of interest in their investigation. They're convinced he knows something. Now, they're stunned to learn Swint has been hired as a police officer for the city of Trotwood, near Dayton.
We were shocked that he would be working as a police officer.
Members of Nikki McCowan's family are also stunned. They believe Swint is connected to Nikki's disappearance.
How are they going to give somebody like this a job as a police officer? How did this just slip through the cracks?
I was mad. I was very much sure Tommy had something to do with Nikki's disappearance.
Richmond detectives quickly informed Trotwood police that Swint is a person of interest in Nikki's investigation.
We had spoke to him about the disappearance of Nikki McCowan. We had spoke to him on a couple of occasions.
Now, they moved to get him dismissed.
He was told to resign or they would start termination process on him.
Swint resigns. Stung by his downfall, Swint responds by suing the city of Richmond and its police department.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Swint?
At a press conference, Swint and his lawyer maintain that police never conclusively told him he was a person of interest in their investigation.
He was never identified as a suspect, never identified as a person of interest, never charged with a crime, never accused of being someone who was involved in anything of that nature. He was interviewed because this was a friend of his that he knew.
There was not one time that Detective Redmond told me or informed me that I was a suspect or a person of interest.
Police insist Swint knew he was a person of interest all along. His lawsuits go nowhere. Tommy Swint's firing and his link to Nikki McCowan land him in the headlines.
It was very much all over the news. There were news stories in our paper, news stories in the Dayton paper.
The coverage prompts something no one expected. An anonymous call that links Tommy Swint to an unsolved murder of a different woman.
We get a call from Dayton Police Department, one of their detectives that works cold case homicides.
It's Detective Patty Tackett. Dayton police have received some explosive information about Swint.
It was an anonymous tip that called in, and they just stated that we might want to look at him as a suspect. Gave very limited information, but just to the fact that we needed to look at him as a possible suspect.
The tip linked Swint to an unsolved murder. 16 years earlier, some forest workers had found a body in a pile of brush near Dayton and reported it to police.
What they discovered there was a blanket wrapped around and taped around the body of a young female.
The body was identified as 33-year-old Tina Marie Ivory. She had been the victim of a vicious strangling.
Tina Marie Ivory was a troubled young woman who had fallen into a life of prostitution and who lived in the Dayton area.
At the time, stains on the blanket enabled Dayton forensic experts to create a specific DNA profile of Ivory's killer. But there was a problem. Detectives needed a suspect, a potential match for their profile.
We can get DNA off of a victim or from a homicide scene, but that DNA is only as good as if we do have the suspect's DNA.
There were no suspects in the Ivory case, so no match for the DNA profile. Like the McCowan case, the Tina Marie Ivory investigation went cold and stayed that way.
For 16 years, they hadn't had any information as far as who did this to this woman.
Until November 2007, when police received that anonymous tip linking the Ivory murder and Tommy Swint. Now, armed with that tip, Dayton detectives reactivate the Ivory investigation.
The first thing that they needed to do was to be able to find if there was a way to match the DNA that they had from 1991 to Tommy Swint's DNA.
Aware that Swint is a person of interest in the McCowan case, Dayton detectives approached their counterparts in Richmond.
And we just follow up on that lead, which took us to Richmond, contacted Richmond.
Incredibly, Richmond police can provide Dayton detectives with Swint's DNA. They have a sample. Just a few months earlier, during the controversy in which Swint was ousted from Trotwood police, Richmond detectives saw their opportunity to obtain Swint's DNA.
He was telling the public and through his attorney that he'd more than cooperated for the Richmond Police Department. That's when we said, okay, if you say you're cooperating, give us your DNA.
At police headquarters in Richmond, officials took the sample from Swint.
We take DNA samples for several reasons. Is one, if something would show up later on, if we could find Nikki McCowan's body, if there was any DNA on her, we would have that to match up.
Now, Richmond police send Swint's sample to Dayton's crime lab.
We were able to take his profile and match it against the DNA profile we made during the analysis of the samples taken from the clothing and the wrapping material of the victim.
They were able to match that with DNA that was found on the body of the female that was murdered.
Detectives have matched Swint's DNA to DNA from the Tina Marie Ivory crime scene. But they still need to tie Swint directly to her murder.
Just because you have DNA on a body doesn't make that person the person that murdered her. You have to get more evidence that puts Tommy Swint's DNA there.
Detectives must place Swint at the scene of the crime. Forensic experts re-examine the major evidence in the Ivory case.
We also had the tape that was used to bind the victim. So the fingerprint examiner looked at the tape again.
Amazingly, the re-examination reveals a further impression, unseen 16 years earlier.
They were able to lift in a palm print from tape that was used to wrap the body that they didn't have the technology to get back in 1991. Then the next hurdle was to be able to match the fingerprint to Tommy Swint.
Dayton detectives traveled to Alabama to obtain Tommy Swint's fingerprints. Their prime suspect has recently relocated south.
We went down and actually did a traffic stop on him in order to bring him to the police station in Alabama to get his fingerprints. He was cooperative, he gave them to us.
The detectives are able to interview Swint, a moment captured on a police camera.
Well, if I told you we had your DNA off her, would you believe it?
No, I don't believe it.
And the reason is because what about you killed her?
So what now?
That you killed her.
Are you stating that I killed her?
I'm asking you, did you kill her? Okay,
I don't
if
even
I'm
know.
telling you that we have evidence that says that you did, what do you have to say to that?
And all due respect. And I understand what your job is. But I'm gonna have to bring this to a close.
The detectives keep questioning Swint about Tina Marie Ivory and do not ask him about Nikki McCowan's disappearance. There is still no evidence linking him to Nikki's case. Back in Dayton, the crime lab receives Swint's fingerprint profile. Experts examine it to see if it matches the print found on the tape wrapped around Tina Ivory's body.
It was compared against that impression that was picked off the tape, and a positive identification was made.
It was a match that the fingerprints that were on the tape did belong to Tommy Swint.
For Dayton detectives, the fingerprint match triggers an arrest warrant for Tommy Swint. For Richmond detectives, it's equally significant. Their person of interest in the Nikki McCowan case is now close to being indicted for the murder of another woman.
We saw a possibility of finally ending the case of Nikki McCowan.
Coming up, a shocking twist in the search for Nikki McCowan's killer.
So, Lord, you didn't bring me this far just to let this happen.
Almost 9 years have passed since Nikki McCowan vanished. Now, authorities are closing in on Nikki's former friend and coworker for the murder of a different woman. A grand jury in Dayton, Ohio, indicts Tommy Swint for the killing of Tina Marie Ivory. It's the moment detectives have been waiting for.
We were hoping that he would say something, admit to us or to them that what happened to Nikki McCowan.
Less than 1 hour later, police prepare to arrest Swint in Russell County, Alabama.
I contacted Alabama to let them know that the indictment had come out, and they did their procedures as far as getting their backup in order to make sure that they made the arrest.
At exactly 1 p.m., police drive up to Swint's house. They approach the front door. At that moment, a shot rings out.
They heard a gunshot, and they went into the house.
Police break down the door and find Swint on the floor, a gun in his hand.
They had found that Tommy had actually taken his life.
Detectives on the McCowan case are devastated.
We're instantly pissed. We're angry. You know, our one shot that we thought we had of finally finding out and getting a conclusion to Nikki McCowan is up in smoke.
Nikki's family hears the unsettling news.
My son, he said, Mom, you know what this means, don't you? And I said, what? He said, you ain't gonna find no answer. Excuse me. I said, oh no. I said, oh, please don't let this be right. I said, so close, so close.
9 years after Nikki McCowan disappeared from the laundromat in Richmond, her case has no resolution. Still, her family is grateful that Tina Marie Ivory's family has some answers.
I feel blessed that Nikki at least brought closer to Tina Marie Ivory's family, because this wouldn't have happened if there was no missing Nikki McCowan.
For Nikki's family, the death of Tommy Swint is a missed opportunity.
I said, Lord, you didn't bring me this far just to let this happen. I said, this ain't right. I said, this ain't right.
They firmly believe Tommy Swint was responsible for Nikki's disappearance.
I was really upset the fact that he took himself out. I wanted him to face the music. I want to be able to look that person in the face and tell them how they destroyed my family. Ask them why they took my sister. I feel like my family deserves at least that opportunity.
Richmond police insist the investigation will continue, but they also understand the consequences of their person of interest's suicide.
The case will stay open until we find out what happened to her. Unfortunately, with Mr. Swint taking his own life, we might never know.
For one man, Nikki's fiancé, investigated by police early on, Swint's death has brought relief. He too believes Swint was responsible for Nikki's disappearance.
His suicide was sort of an answer. I mean, why would someone shoot themselves in the head, you know, if they've got nothing to hide?
Today, Bobby Webster has drawn closer to Nikki's family, particularly to her daughter Peyton.
We text and talk on the phone constantly, and I get a chance to, you know, take her shopping here and there. And that's one person throughout the ordeal I can honestly say still by my side, was Peyton.
I still have love for him. He is like a father figure, and I still call him my stepdad. He took me away from what was going on with the adults.
Now 17, Peyton is still hopeful that someday her mother will return.
I still think my mom's out there somewhere. I'm not sure if she's alive or dead, but, you know, until they can prove it to me, you know, she's still alive to me.
For the McCowan family, Nikki lives on in Peyton.
When she smiles, it brightens my day, because it's like looking directly at Nikki. And Nikki would be very proud of the young lady she's become.
The family search for Nikki goes on.
I promised her daughter that I would never give up on her mom. I will find out what happened to my sister. And I'm going to keep that promise to Peyton.
Until I find out where she's laying or who has her. Until I find that, I'll probably be in limbo the rest of my life. There's somebody's got to give a damn for all the Nickies out there, and there's so many of them.
Amber Gerwick disappeared on Saturday, April 9th, 2011. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Amber Gerwick's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. Mother of four, Amber Gerwick, vanishes suddenly from her Jackson, Michigan home.
My heart just went into my throat.
Clues found halfway across the country paint a frightening picture.
I saw the video, and I just literally could not breathe.
Then, old wounds threatened to tear Amber's family apart.
I had been through this once before when my brother disappeared. With him, they found a body.
How could we as a family endure a disappearance again?
What happens next stuns even the most hardened cops.
Every now and then, no matter how many cases you've done, somebody will throw a curveball at you from left field.
It's a crisp spring morning in Jackson, Michigan, a small city in the Midwestern hub of the Rust Belt. Homemaker Diane Spice lives 5 miles north in the sleepy suburb of Blackman Township.
It was a normal, regular day, and the phone rang at early. It was like 10 minutes to 8.
The call is about Diane's niece, Amber.
It was Amber's boss telling me that she had not been to work for 2 days.
32-year-old Amber Gerwick works as an administrative assistant at a local consulting firm.
Amber worked for a company that contracted with Homeland Security. She enjoyed her job. She had just gotten a promotion, was really happy about that.
She was really excited. She was going from working in a cubicle to having an office of her own.
But it isn't just work that keeps Amber busy.
She was taking a medical administration course part-time at school, working full-time.
She was maintaining a 4.0 average while taking care of a family.
Amber has 4 children. She and her ex-husband share custody. Amber was at a good place in her life.
To Diane, her niece's sudden absence from work seems out of character.
For her not to show up for 2 days without calling in was very unusual. So I thought, well, maybe she's sick.
Amber has recently moved to a 1-bedroom apartment a few minutes from her Aunt Diane's home. Diane decides to check in on her. But she's greeted by nothing but a cold silence.
I knocked on the door pretty loudly, as loud as I could. I pounded on it for a few minutes, and I listened in to see if I could hear any sounds, but there was nothing.
Minutes later, Diane breaks the troubling news to Amber's mother, Jackie Seeger.
She asked if we had heard anything from Amber recently, and I said, well, we talked to her Saturday.
Jackie and her husband Dale speak with their daughter regularly.
Amber lives in Michigan, and I live in Georgia, and that's a long ways away. So in order to stay in touch, Amber and I talked to one another on the phone.
On April 9th, 2 days earlier, Amber was her usual talkative self.
She said that the kids were with their father that weekend, and that she was going to study for the day.
But Amber never mentioned plans to miss work. Immediately concerned, Jackie tries her daughter's cell phone.
There was no answer whatsoever, just would go to her voicemail.
We decided at that point there needed to be a missing persons report filed.
Diane files a report with the Blackman Township Department of Public Safety.
Well, the next step was, of course, going to her apartment and searching.
We felt it was important to check and make sure that she wasn't physically injured and laying in the apartment or worse.
Within the hour, patrol officers arrive at Amber's apartment. But Amber is nowhere to be found.
The police had crime scene investigative people there searching the apartment. They had called the detectives at that point.
Leading the investigation is veteran detective Robert Schrock.
As we entered, we made contact with the patrol officers that were on scene.
At first glance, nothing appears out of the ordinary.
There was no sign of like a struggle or altercation. The apartment wasn't in any type of disarray. There was food in the fridge. She also didn't appear to have packed any clothes. All indicators that she probably wasn't going somewhere for long.
But then, one item suddenly catches his attention.
Amber's purse was sitting by the door. Missing from the purse was her wallet, keys to the vehicle, and the vehicle was not at the apartment.
The evidence found in the apartment leads police to believe that Amber had left willingly. Until Detective Schrock reaches the bedroom at the end of the hall.
As I walked into the bedroom, I located a cell phone sitting on the bed. And the cell phone was still on.
A laptop and various school books are also strewn across the bed.
So it looked like she just got up and took off.
The objects left behind in the bedroom raise a new level of concern.
It made it more suspicious because most people won't leave their cell phone.
We were completely mystified. We did not know what could have caused her to leave the apartment without her cell phone because it was attached to her like, you know, it was part of her skin.
Detective Schrock begins to piece together possible scenarios.
It's one of two things. It's either Amber didn't want to be contacted or somebody got a hold of her.
Did somebody break in? Did somebody get into the apartment? And did somebody take her forcefully?
But who would want to harm Amber Gerwick? Police speak with a number of friends and acquaintances, including Amber's ex-husband, but no one stands out as a suspect. However, down in Georgia, the Seegers are convinced their daughter would never disappear under normal circumstances.
When she walked out of that apartment, we're thinking there's something wrong.
Amber never would have left her children, just up and left her children.
Amber's career in security contracting gives her access to an inventory of sensitive government information. Her family wonders if Amber's disappearance is somehow connected to her job.
She probably would have known a number of things that could have been important to somebody that was maybe a terrorist or something.
Imagination goes wild. You can think of so many different things that could be going on, so many whys and so many what ifs.
The clues found in Amber's apartment in Michigan leave the family with a host of agonizing questions. But none points police towards an answer.
It was important to get going on this because the last time anyone had spoke to her was on the 9th. A couple days had already gone by, so we were already behind on trying to figure out what had happened.
When Detective Schrock returns to the station, he enters Amber into the National Crime Information Center, or NCIC. The system will raise a red flag if Amber or her vehicle appear on police radar for any reason.
At that point, we were kind of in this limbo. Like, what do we do?
We are sitting here in Georgia. She's missing in Michigan. You know, who do we contact? Who do we talk to? Where do we turn for help?
Then, only 3 hours later, the case takes a startling turn.
And then suddenly we get this call that the car turned up in Georgia as an abandoned car in Tunnel Hill.
I remember having to have that repeated to me because I must have heard it wrong. Her car couldn't have been in Tunnel Hill, Georgia.
And here's her car, 600 miles away from Jackson, where she lives. And we're like, Now what?
Coming up, police uncover a puzzling new clue.
I saw the video, and I just literally could not breathe.
Mother of 4 Amber Gerwick has gone missing from her home in Jackson, Michigan. But just 3 hours after her family filed a missing persons report, Amber's car turned up in the parking lot of a Dollar General store in Georgia, over 600 miles from Jackson.
And everything changed. The search had suddenly moved from Michigan to Georgia.
What's most perplexing is not the SUV's distance from Amber's home in Jackson, but rather its proximity to her parents' home in Calhoun.
It's about 35 miles north of us. It's way off the highway. It's just kind of an out-of-the-way place.
According to Tunnel Hill Police, the SUV was abandoned in the parking lot at least 2 days earlier.
Did she drive the car down here? Did someone force her to drive the car down? Did someone do something to her and then take her car?
One day after Amber is reported missing, the case is turned over to Detective Eric Burnett of the Whitfield County Sheriff's Department in Georgia. Detective Burnett invites the Seegers down to the station to discuss some new developments in the case.
I met with Miss Gerwick's parents the first time at my office, the sheriff's office. Asked them about their daughter, what kind of a person she was, what kind of friends she has. I told them what we'd found in the car.
He said initially there appeared to be no signs of a struggle inside of the vehicle. There was no signs of violence. There was no blood evidence.
However, what police did find in the front seat of Amber's car raises a slew of new questions.
Miss Gerwick's wallet was located in the car. There was no money there. It was just a debit card and her driver's license.
Police also found Amber's keys locked inside the SUV.
That was very strange to me.
If Amber drove the car, why would she leave her most important possessions behind? But then, if Amber were abducted, why would the kidnapper leave her possessions out in the open?
We ran all kind of scenarios, what might have happened to her. But the more we did that, the more confused we got. Is she running from anybody? Has someone done something to her? Those are questions that we needed to have answers for pretty quick.
There had to be something wrong for her to lock her billfold and her keys in. And the only thought that goes through my mind was she did that deliberately so somebody would know that she had been there, like leaving the breadcrumb trail.
Then, Detective Burnett reveals the most valuable piece of evidence found in the SUV, a small paper receipt. The receipt lists a number of purchases made at the Dollar General store. But since the receipt was locked inside Amber's SUV, whoever was driving the car must have been a customer at the store. And chances are, this person was caught on one of the Dollar General's many surveillance cameras.
Based on the receipt, we knew the time and a date of where to look. We wanted to see exactly who was in that store. We went to the Dollar General store and met with the manager at the store to watch the video.
Detective Burnett cues the footage up to Sunday, April 10th at 8:04 a.m., the time stamped on the receipt. What it reveals will turn the investigation on its head.
This is a surveillance video. It showed a female in there buying several items and leaving the store. She was a white female. She had a University of Kentucky blue sweatshirt on, blue jeans and tennis shoes.
I saw the video, and I just literally could not breathe. Looked at the monitor, and there's my daughter.
It was her. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind it was her, and it stopped me dead in my tracks.
You see her come in. She walks around. She picks up her items. She stops at the checkout. Guy comes to check her out. She kind of says hello to him. She picks up a chapstick or something right there by the cash register, pays for her stuff.
And she turned to the left, and she just disappeared.
Amber's appearance on video ends here. There are no surveillance cameras in the Dollar General parking lot.
That's it. That's all we have. We have no way to know what happened when she left the store.
We watched it over and over. I just wanted to reach out and touch her. I just wanted to say, where are you, Amber?
The footage leaves the Seegers with more questions than answers.
She hasn't contacted us. She hasn't attempted to contact us, and why not? Where is she?
Never did I feel that Amber had got to Georgia willfully. I don't know why, how, but I know it's not of her own accord.
She looked up at the camera. She looks right at the surveillance camera, and we're like, okay, were we supposed to notice that? Was she trying to tell us something?
All theories aside, the Seegers must accept a painful reality. Over 3 days have passed since Amber was last seen alive.
It's like the big abyss of the unknown right before you.
My baby girl has been there, and I feel stronger now than ever before that she's in harm's way, and I can't help her.
Coming up, as the search effort expands, police turn their attention to a murky swamp in Tunnel Hill.
Dad and I both felt that this was going to end badly.
Amber Gerwig has not been heard from for 4 days. Georgia police spotted her on surveillance footage from a convenience store in the small town of Tunnel Hill, Georgia, over 600 miles from her home in Michigan. Oddly, it's just under 30 miles from her parents' house. But Amber has not been seen since, and her parents are beginning to fear the worst.
The problem is that, yeah, you saw her alive there, but you don't know what's happened in the meantime. Okay, she made it to Georgia, but she only made it as far as Tunnel Hill. How come she's not here?
No new leads have surfaced in the last 24 hours, and Amber's father, Dale, is growing restless.
Very much a helpless feeling. I don't know what to do. I haven't slept 2 nights before. Emotionally, I'm just torn up.
Dale decides to play a more active role in the investigation.
I finally had enough. I had to go looking for Amber.
He drives to the site of Amber's last known whereabouts, the Dollar General store.
I had to walk up and down the aisles. I know that I'm not going to find her there, but I know that that's where she was. And I walked up and down these same aisles. I'm in the aisle where they have the lotions and the shampoos and the stuff, and I walk up and down that. And while I'm walking, I'm thinking, Amber, what's happened to you?
There are no new clues to be found inside. But outside, the store's property borders an expanse of densely wooded swampland.
So I walked out and back, and I walked in grid pattern by myself, looking for my daughter in the tall grass. I'm not going to deviate from a straight line for nothing. So I'm walking through the brambles, I'm walking through the berry bushes, I'm walking through everything.
Dale is driven by instinct, but terrified of what he might find.
I climbed down in the drainage culvert, walked that from one end to the other, walked out there through the mud as much as I could to find her.
After trudging through acres of jagged bramble and putrid swamp, Dale can go no further.
I just sat there and looked down. I was all scratched up, my legs were all muddy and everything. I remember remember buying some bottled water and washing my legs and stuff off. And I remember the dread of going home because I had not been successful.
The Sheriff's Department enlists the help of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, a state-run criminal justice organization.
Well, the GBI, they have more resources than we do. They bring us more manpower for searches.
Heading up the case is Special Agent Daniel Sims.
Time is of a critical element. The first couple of days is very important in the collection of facts and evidence, mainly because those things are perishable. They can go away. As far as investigative work, Amber was at the top of the list.
The first official step for the Bureau is to mount an extensive search throughout Tunnel Hill.
We organized a search with about 30 emergency personnel. The area around the Dollar General store is extremely rural. And it's hilly, if not mountainous. We wanted to make sure that she wasn't in the woods. Other officers searched the railroad tracks that transversed that strip mall that the Dollar General is part of. And we also had some individuals search the swampy area behind the Dollar General itself. And we did neighborhood canvas searches, went door to door.
This may be an awful thing to admit, but when they said that they were going to go back up there and search, I actually prayed that they wouldn't find Amber because that would mean a body, not my daughter.
You go into it with the hopes and aspirations that you'll find her alive. But at the same time, having traveled down these investigative roads before, you keep your eyes open for anything that's on the ground or motionless, or, of course, the discovery of the human body.
But after an exhaustive search, the team comes up empty. Though Agent Sims is undeterred, the failure to uncover new evidence is a blow to morale.
The longer that anyone is missing, the chances of finding them lessens.
Dad and I both expressed that we felt that this was going to end badly, that there really wasn't a lot of hope. It was very hard to be hopeful because of the history as a family.
Although it's hard to fathom, Amber's disappearance is actually a familiar trauma for the Seeger family.
I had been through this once before when my brother disappeared.
It was winter, it was in January, and he tried to go to this party and he got lost and got stuck in the snow. We didn't know where he was for 2 years. He died of hypothermia. It was horrible for our family.
How could we as a family endure a long-term disappearance again? Would we be able to get through something like that?
Coming up, Amber's father suddenly finds himself at the center of the investigation.
And I remember breaking down. I found it unconscionable, but somebody could make that accusation against me.
Missing Michigan resident Amber Gerwick was last seen alive on April 10th, 2011, in a small-town Georgia convenience store. But in the days and weeks following, in spite of a concentrated search effort led by state and local police, no new leads have materialized.
When you know that you have a missing person and their family's grieving, it's hard not to think about that.
An outgoing woman starting the next chapter in her life.
She's just retired, and she was very much focused on the future. Diane was a person that everyone should meet in life. Positive, happy.
But her life is cut short in a night of immeasurable horror.
There was blood splatter everywhere.
I never saw so much trauma to one person's body.
It chills me to the bone
Police have a complex scene and a long list of suspects.
There was over 100 male contacts in Diane's phone.
There was always drama with boyfriends.
He refused to give DNA. There was something out there that he was hiding. Every direction we followed, we ended up running into dead ends.
Just when police think they might never catch the killer.
Who could it be? Why is this so complicated?
The case takes a mind-blowing turn.
And I was like, what? Oh my God.
No one expected this case to break on something like this.
Union Township, New Jersey. A bustling East Coast community with a small town feel.
Union Township's a mix of mostly suburban, but it's got its downtown area. It's peaceful, it's quaint, it's safe.
But all that changes on a cold November afternoon.
911, where is the emergency? I can't even think of the address right now. Okay, ma'am, listen to me. Take a deep breath. What's going on there? She's not answering. Can you tell me if she's breathing or not? No, she's not. Hurry, please. Please, hurry.
After receiving a call from the victim's parents, the Union police responded immediately to the home. The father was across the streets with the mom, and they were clearly in shock.
The couple tells police they found their daughter, Diane Zaleski, unresponsive inside.
When I got there, there was massive amounts of blood in the foyer. The walls were covered with blood spray. There was just blood everywhere.
We followed the blood trail into the basement and discovered the victim's body.
She had clearly been dragged to the basement.
You could see her at the bottom of the stairs. She was literally in a pool of blood. There were stab wounds all over her torso, her face, her neck.
There were defensive wounds on her arms and hands. We knew there was a struggle, no doubt. I never saw so much trauma to one person's body.
She was partially clothed. There was a pair of black underwear, literally right next to her head.
Had the victim been sexually assaulted as well? Investigators find more disturbing clues.
There were 2 empty containers of solvent by the woman.
It appeared that the body had been cleaned.
So this was an effort to obscure evidence.
The killer also tried to erase their tracks throughout the house.
The kitchen sink was full of soapy water, and inside was the remote controls, some cleaning brushes, and lots of various items that it appeared the suspect had touched.
Also, the garbage can was gone, which led us to believe that the killer got rid of DNA or blood evidence or fingerprints. The entire bathroom area was soaking wet. The shower head was not in its cradle. We thought the killer took a shower, so we pulled the drain to check for DNA.
The crime scene was, how I would describe it, Herculean.
Detectives can't find a murder weapon, but forensics discover what could be a crucial piece of evidence the killer failed to clean up.
There was a droplet of blood on the floor.
It appeared to be foreign to us. It was cast off and inconsistent with the victim's blood.
He had cut himself somehow in the course of the struggle, whether it be from a knife, from punching her.
We knew that the guy was trying to cover himself, but it was minute, and they found it. They saw that blood.
We immediately swabbed that piece of evidence and transported it to our DNA lab.
Detectives get more information from Diane's parents.
They had gone to the house because she was supposed to take a sister-in-law to a doctor's appointment that morning, and nobody could get in touch with her.
They entered her home and they discovered Diane's body.
Her parents were really suffering.
Diane was a born and bred Jersey girl, gregarious and adored by her friends.
Diane, she brought joy to a lot of people's lives. Very positive, happy, laughing and dancing. Even though she wasn't married and she didn't have children, she was very much focused on her family. Her parents were a little bit older, so she was kind of watching over them. And I knew her brother because he had lived with her for a while.
After 17 years of working as a legal secretary, Diane was now taking time for herself.
Here's this young single woman in her own house, and she's just retired. When she was offered a certain buyout package, there was no hesitation. She was ready. She had worked long and hard in her life. Diane was social. She had her friends from work, and often they'd go to happy hours. Then she had her dance friends. She would go on dates. She would just say, you know, Joanne, in the end, I'm just looking for a guy who can carry in my packages. She still had hope that she was going to meet somebody to spend life with.
As investigators finish processing the crime scene, a theory evolves.
There were no forced entry marks that we could find in the house. He took the time trying to obscure everything. He tried to clean her body. All this took time.
In addition, there was a pot that appeared to have food in it. Maybe Diane had been cooking or had been eating when her killer entered her home, and there was a fork from that pot that we found in the kitchen sink full of cleaning fluid, which led us to believe the suspect had also taken time to eat.
I was involved with at least 150 homicides. I never saw anyone hang out in a house after a murder. I just never heard of it.
We felt it was someone Diane knew.
The killer was very comfortable in this house after the death of the victim.
Which led us down the boyfriend road, or someone who was dating her road.
But what was the killer's motive?
For any human being to do this to another human being is, I don't even have a word for it.
Police rule out robbery since nothing appears to be stolen, including Diane's wallet. And when investigators look through it, they find a clue.
We found a business card.
It belongs to someone named Mark. Who is this man? And could he know anything about Diane's brutal murder?
We found out from her family that he lived in the general area, and it was a bar just up the street from where Diane lived. And we found out that they had been there. So we think that's where she actually got his business card. And because she was out there, she was dating, we wanted to speak to everybody. Maybe he had some information. He came in, and I showed him a picture of her, and he flat out refused to say that he even knew her. He said he had no idea why the card was in her wallet. And then he said, she's not the target I would usually go for. Target?
Coming up, old boyfriends with disturbing pasts.
There was a restraining order in effect.
Play cat and mouse with police.
That wasn't his real name. This guy was ducking us.
When an unexpected tip sparks a race to find the killer.
Oh, he was just a monster.
There was now an absolute manhunt.
Police investigating the gruesome murder of Diane Zaleski found a single business card in the victim's wallet. It belongs to a man named Mark. Investigators want to know if he and Diane recently met, and when detectives question him, they become suspicious.
The words that came out of his mouth about targets were very strange. His mannerisms and just the things he said, they were wrong. I don't call girls that I'm gonna go out with targets. He had done something, maybe, to other women. He wouldn't tell us anything.
Detectives found a drop of blood at the crime scene that they believe belongs to Diane's killer. Could it be linked to Mark?
He refused to give DNA. Just out and out refused.
It was something that was concerning to us. Someone who's innocent usually is cooperative.
He had taken a bottle of water from us, and when he was finished, he wouldn't throw it out. He left. And he carried his bottle of water with him. So he obviously knew something about DNA. So I followed him. He walked about 2 blocks away from the building, and he threw it.
Detectives collect the bottle and send it in for testing. As news of the murder spreads,
I couldn't believe it. I just was like, oh my God. Oh my God. It was like a bad dream. I just couldn't believe that it was her. It was just so devastating.
Police fan across Diane's neighborhood, hoping someone saw something.
One older neighbor told us that earlier she had seen 2 children playing outside. And she knew one of the children lived in the neighborhood. She didn't know who the other child was. During the winter, she had seen him shoveling Diane's driveway.
Had the neighborhood kids witnessed anything out of the ordinary?
And so detectives wanted to identify those children. And when we spoke with the neighbor across the street from Diane, kind of diagonally, she said she had a daughter and a grandson. So those were the children identified as being outside.
All she could say is, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. Her 11-year-old grandson didn't indicate anything else, and boom, the door gets closed and we're done with our canvas there.
But detectives do get information that raises some troubling new questions.
The neighbors told us that her garbage can was outside in the street, which led us to believe that the killer got rid of the garbage. How would he know that if he put the garbage out, it would be gone in the morning?
And why was the killer so desperate to get rid of it?
Was there evidence or fingerprints? We didn't know.
We contacted the local garbage company, and we unfortunately discovered that it was already in the incinerator.
When detectives reviewed Diane's autopsy report, they learned she was killed sometime between 10 p.m. and 1 the next morning.
The medical examiner determined the cause and manner of death to be homicide and multiple blunt force injuries. The wounds were too numerous to count.
The person that had done this was obviously very violent. Some person who had snapped.
Because the body had been cleaned. The medical examiner could not determine if there was any signs of sexual assault.
What she had to live through, it's gruesome. It's frightening. I struggle with why. Why did that happen to her? I really don't understand that it was just a heinous crime.
A week after Diane's death, investigators get the results from the blood they suspect came from the killer at the scene.
We were able to obtain a DNA profile, and it was male.
We did enter the profile through the DNA data bank, and that came up negative.
So we knew we had the killer, we just didn't know who it was.
Will Mark be a match? Police have to wait another week to find out.
And he was negative.
Because DNA is the only piece of evidence police have to tie the killer to the scene, detectives need to find the match.
It was our goal to locate and interview every male individual that she was friends or romantically involved with and obtain a DNA sample. We discovered that there was over 100 male contacts in Diane's phone.
One of the first contacts detectives talked to is someone named Mike Prunell.
We showed him a picture of Diane. He was like, Mark, he denied ever knowing her. And okay, take people at their word.
Without anything linking Mike to Diane, detectives don't see any reason to question him further and let him go.
We are interviewing basically anybody and everybody, and we were coming up with nothing. We interviewed girlfriends just to get a feel of Diane, how she was, if she had mentioned guys she might have been dating.
I met the prosecutor, and he wanted to know everything about Diane and what I knew about her. There was always drama with boyfriends. We thought for sure that it was one of those bad boyfriends.
A familiar name comes up, Mike Prunell. But he had told police he didn't know Diane, So detectives do more digging.
You know, checking driver's license histories and criminal histories, and you don't find Mike. We thought it was curious. We wanted to speak to him again, but he never returned a phone call. Every direction we followed, we ended up running into dead ends.
Why can't police find any records for Mike? And why did he lie about knowing Diane?
There was something out there that he was hiding.
When detectives ask Diane's brother Ron about Mike, what they hear completely surprises them.
Not only did he know her, but he asked Diane's father for her hand in marriage some 20 years prior. So he knew her real well. Another red flag.
Detectives investigating the murder of Diane Zaleski uncover shocking information about a prior person of interest. A man they interviewed, Mike Prunell, was adamant he didn't know the victim. But Diane's brother Ron tells police that's a lie.
We had found out Mike asked for her hand in marriage. He said Mike had an extensive history with her. He'd known her for at least 20 years. Prior to her move into the new house, she was renting an apartment from him for over a year. But he denied ever knowing her when I showed a picture of her to him.
Police discover more secrets and lies about Mike Prunell.
We found out that wasn't his real name. And when we did find out what it was, we ran his criminal history and we found out that he had domestic violence. And his wife at the time stated that he was beating her severely. He sat on her chest and was just pummeling her face to the point where her eye orbital was broken. So that sent flags off. We were totally convinced this was the guy, because he did beat his former wife. There was a restraining order in effect. And Diane was beaten so badly, this guy was pretty much ducking us. He wouldn't answer phone calls. It took us a little while to find him, but we did. Eventually, got him in again a second time.
But again, Mike won't admit he knows Diane.
He was being less than truthful. It's like, okay, you deny knowing her, you asked her to marry you. It's very suspicious.
He was lying, obviously. We never discovered the reason for that.
Getting nowhere, police take another approach.
We asked where he was, the time of the murder, and he couldn't give us an alibi. And we spoke to him in depth. He didn't give us any answers, nothing concrete.
Detectives can't hold him, but they don't want to let him go before getting one thing.
Eventually, he did consent to DNA. Our hopes are all raised.
We immediately transported it to our lab. We would get the result within 48 hours.
While they wait, Mike is released for the second time, and detectives work to place their suspect at the scene.
We found out that his brother ran a business close to Diane's house. Hopefully there was video evidence there for people that were coming and going. Somebody who worked there might have seen him. We interviewed everybody, but it didn't really drum up anything tangible. And there was absolutely no video surveillance at all. Nothing.
Detectives' next hope lies with the DNA results.
And it was negative. It wasn't a match.
We were feeling frustrated because we knew the killer was still out there. We had his profile. To say this wasn't a mountainous investigation is an understatement. We had to track down and obtain biological samples from close to 100 individuals.
We took swabs from her family members so that we could exclude them. At some point, as being the source of the DNA.
While searching through Diane's computer, forensic analysts discover new information.
We took her computer. There were several different things that we found
Everything is time-stamped. Hours after Diane's death, there was activity on the PC.
Numerous items, technology items, were attempted to be purchased using Diane's credit card. It was someone that was comfortable having things delivered to Diane's house and it not being out of the ordinary if they were the ones collecting them.
We knew he tried to purchase an Apple computer, an iPhone, and it didn't go through. We had no idea why the purchase itself didn't go through.
We also found that the killer, while in the home, was also searching pornographic websites.
I mean, to go on pornographic websites after you just brutally killed a woman.
Waiting for justice takes a toll on Diane's friends.
Who could it be? Why is this so complicated? We watch the news all the time and we see these things, we see murders, but when it happens to somebody you know, it's devastating. It's sad. It made me very sad about humanity. That someone is so capable of doing something so brutal to someone that is so beautiful. Everyone that loved her wanted closure on this.
3 weeks after Diane's murder, detectives get results back from the crime lab that send the investigation in an unexpected direction.
We tested the black underwear found next to the decedent's head. DNA profile was collected. That DNA came back to her brother.
3 weeks after 54-year-old Diane Zaleski is savagely murdered, detectives discovered DNA from the crime scene belongs to someone close to home.
The DNA that was in the pair of underwear lying next to Diane came back to Ron, her brother. A lot of things ran through all of our minds.
We just couldn't believe it.
We thought that there might have been something sexual with her brother, and she had enough. And he had killed her, brutally killed his sister. Diane's brother worked for the Department of Public Works, so he would know when garbage was collected on her street.
The killer knew I can stay until the garbage is removed and then I'm safe to leave.
So there's a possibility that Diane's brother could have done it, collected all the evidence, and taken out the garbage. The killer was there for a long time. Diane's brother, he knew her pattern, her daily pattern. He would be comfortable staying on the scene, making themselves something to eat. I called him up that night and said, hey, do you got 10 minutes to come down and talk to me?
Ron agrees to come in the next day.
How do you say this without accusing the brother of basically having sex with his sister? Because that's what it leads you to believe. I have this report saying that Ron's semen was found in the underwear, so I just put the report on the desk and I slid it over to him and I said, what do you think? It's like he was hit by a freight train. The jaw drops. He said, I can't explain it. It can't be true. He went on about the wash and the laundry, that up until just prior to her death, she was doing laundry at her brother's house. I sort of left it at that. I said, we can keep this between us for now. I'll talk to you again in a couple days.
In the interim, detectives send Ron's DNA to compare with the blood spot found at the scene. They also get some crucial details from Ron's wife.
The wife said he was home with me, he couldn't have done this, he didn't do this. We asked specific pointed questions. She told us they weren't Diane's underwear, they were Ron's wife's underwear. They had the same size and brand of underwear. She did tell us that Diane had been doing laundry in their house. We also found out sperm can be resilient into the wash. So the sperm that was in the underwear could actually be from Diane's brother, and her sister-in-law and her underwear got mixed up. The whole family got by his side. After conducting all the interviews, we all came to the conclusion that he didn't do a thing.
There's hard proof of Ron's innocence when investigators find out his DNA isn't a match for the blood found at the scene.
Case took lots of twists and turns, and there were parts that were shocking to us where we had to kind of sit down and regroup. Diane was also on some dating websites, so we also had to attack that aspect of the case.
Could she have met someone sinister over the internet?
Online dating can be frightening. There are people who are really troubled, and if they come across your path, you are the victim.
Detectives focus on someone who called and texted Diane a lot.
Kyle came to our attention because he was in her phone. And Kyle was very evasive. Didn't want to come in for an interview. He was just a friend. He wasn't romantic with her at all. At least that's what he said.
But was that true? Or did Kyle want more than Diane's friendship?
Her circle of friends said he was a possible person of interest. And we acted on it. We followed up on it. He was not cooperative. We obtained subpoenas to go find him and bring him in for statements.
When he finally did come in for an interview and refused to give a DNA sample, I think it was too intrusive to him. And he asked a lot of questions. Normally, I'm the guy asking all the questions. So it gets your radar up a little bit that something's not exactly right with this guy. He actually said that he was at the house the week prior to her death, so he was familiar with the house, wanted a relationship with the victim. He denied that. We didn't believe that was true at all. People that I'd spoken to didn't think that he was her type. Maybe she laughed at him and told him to get out. Why else would he be evasive if he wasn't hiding something?
There were no signs of forced entry at all to the home. So Diane must have let this person into her home.
Was that person Kyle?
Maybe he didn't go there with the intent to kill, but maybe something flipped the switch.
Detectives want to know where Kyle was the night of the murder.
He said he works nights, and all the access in the building was key card controlled.
Detectives check logs. There is a record of Kyle swiping in.
But who's to say that somebody else wasn't using his key card? Until we got DNA, we'll just never know.
Investigators tell Kyle if he wants to be ruled out, he needs to cooperate.
We did eventually collect his DNA. He was negative. DNA set him free.
As weeks turn into months, investigators are far from uncovering the identity of Diane's killer.
We're hitting the year anniversary of Diane's death. It was very hard to explain to the family that we were no closer. You saw a family not being able to fully grieve because they didn't know who did this.
It was like a bad dream. I was worried. I said that they should have found someone by this time.
We knew the killer was out there. We were feeling frustrated. He would never be identified. That was our worst fear.
It's been a year since Diane Zaleski was found stabbed to death in her home, and police are no closer to solving her murder. To find her killer, detectives come up with a new strategy.
You usually try to piece together the victim's life, but we felt we needed to come at this from another angle and try to figure out who our suspect was.
Detective Henderson met with the FBI profile unit to identify what type of behavior a person may have done this to Diane.
We talked to psychologists, psychiatrists, and we hashed everything out. Where we went, why we went there, what did this lead? Is there anything still open? We went through all the DNA. We went through all the interviews. We went through the whole case. You know, the person trying to buy stuff online, the pornography that was visited, everything. We laid out the whole case.
profile came back to a loner, a petty thief, possibly, someone with psychological issues. Someone that was in her life, but not for a long time.
Age would have been younger. It would have been somebody that was into technology.
We realized that the individuals that we were speaking to did not fit that profile.
To catch the killer, investigators generate new leads.
One of the things was, on the year anniversary, do a media blitz. Local TV, local newspapers.
We just wanted to see whether or not it might stir the pot.
Detectives decide to release new information to the public.
So the things that we included in the press release, whoever killed Diane cleaned up after himself. We also said that we now have the killer's DNA on file. And then we recanvassed everywhere.
After a month, detectives have received a flurry of new tips. And one really grabs their attention.
Detective Rob Henderson received a phone call from an individual out of state indicating that she was on social media with an individual who was concerned about his well-being and his safety because he thought he was being investigated by police because of a serious crime he committed in New Jersey.
She tells me, I'm a stay-at-home mom. You may think I'm a little crazy, but I'm Facebook friends with this guy.
This woman was on Facebook and had met a person years earlier in a Facebook chat room, and then eventually formed a friendship with this person. She explained to us that she had had conversations with him that were troubling to her.
She had said that he had told her that he had committed a murder.
This witness was very concerned for her family, but she said, if he had anything to do with this, I need to speak the truth.
We had been friends for about 3 or 4 years at that time. We used to chat through Instant Messenger all the time. He had a lot of different screen names. He called me his big little sister. He was 9 years younger than me. He told me he lived in New Jersey. He was fluctuating in and out of homelessness. He told me that he sold drugs and things like that, but I didn't feel like that was who he was. I think he was just doing it because he felt like he had to. Out of the blue, he's like, I did the worst thing you can think of. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, like, what is he talking about? I don't know, a drug dealer getting killed. And I was like, what did you do? He said, they found DNA. And so I'm like, what do you mean they found DNA? While I was talking to him, I Googled some articles just to see if anything matched up with the story that he told me. And so I went online and I looked up murder, New Jersey DNA, and instantly an article came up.
She searched and she found the 1-year anniversary article. We put together to try to rekindle some interest in Diane's story.
I was shocked of what I did find. The article says that he tried to purchase an iPad with using her credit cards. The information that they put in the article matched what I knew about my friend. And a light bulb just went off in my head. I know that's him. It had to have been him.
She told us that he had been washing clothing at the home, and that how he had literally been in his boxers cleaning.
She told me that he told her that he made himself dinner. Now, we did release certain things in the article about there was some food, but we didn't say he made himself a meal. We didn't provide that information, but he did.
We ended that phone call, and then within a matter of hours, we're booking a flight to visit her and to take some evidence from her. Upon meeting with her and looking at her computer and doing a forensic examination, we knew we had the right guy.
Detectives ask the woman for his name.
Nashon. That's what he called himself, because he didn't like his first name, Darnell.
She was a little nervous and a little hesitant, but eventually she gave us his full name.
Arnell Yearwood.
The last name gets detectives' attention.
We knew from our canvas that individuals with that same last name lived diagonally across the street from Diane.
When we look back at all the documented reports, it was determined that we had spoke to the killer's mother.
After over a year and a half investigating the grisly murder of Diane Zaleski, police finally get the break they need. They have the name of the suspected killer, Arnell Yearwood. And in a shocking twist, detectives discover his family actually lives on Diane's street, and they've been to the house.
We were there last year after one older neighbor told us that she had seen two kids playing outside. And she knew one of the children lived in the neighborhood. She didn't know who the other child was.
We did some more digging and some more investigation on Yearwood. Arnell Yearwood, although he was in his 20s, he was very small in stature. So he could be mistaken in a puffy jacket for a kid. We knew that Diane had some kids on the block helping shovel snow or do some yard work. It really led us to believe who was described as this kid was the killer. We went back across the street, made it look like we were canvassing other homes, but really we only had one home that we wanted information from, and that was his mother, Mrs. Yearwood. So we went to her home, said, "We know you have a son," and asked specific information about that son. And her daughter, who lived in the home, the mother of that child that was seen on the block, expressed to us that her brother, Arnell, had been at times living in the basement. And it would have been during the time frame of Diane's murder. That her brother sometimes would be outside with her own son.
Arnell's mother insists she has no idea where her 26-year-old son is.
We have to find this guy because we have to do a DNA match.
There was now an absolute manhunt.
A track and trace on Arnell's phone narrows down his position.
Somebody's got eyeballs on the house, and next thing you know, a kid starts walking down the street. And sure enough, it was Arnell Yearwood. And he was 5'1", 120 pounds, soaking wet, wearing winter clothes. Looked like a kid.
No one expected this.
We scooped him up, and we took him back to the office. He was nonchalant. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think I was there then.
Detectives push harder, knowing they need to get a DNA sample from Arnell to compare to the crime scene.
He did consent, but after we took his DNA, he stopped talking. My boss called me at 7 o'clock that night and said, "It's him."
On April 7th, 2012, police arrest Arnell Yearwood for the murder of Diane Zaleski.
He was charged and brought back to the homicide task force and questioned again.
This time, Arnell starts talking, and investigators can now piece together what happened the night of Diane's murder.
She let him in based on the fact that he was a neighbor.
He did small chores for Diane. The garbage, minor painting, cleaning around the house. He entered the house to collect money.
Diane looked at him as the nice neighbor kid that she was trying to help. He knocked on her door that night and she let him in because she thought he was harmless. He wanted a romantic relationship and things went bad, and he did not take kindly to being rejected.
She told him to get out, and that's when he said he took a pair of scissors and he started stabbing her. entrance right at the front door. That's where the first attack occurred. After he had her down on the ground, he was strangling her. He dragged her down the stairs and left her body dead at the bottom of the stairs. And then he went about his cleanup, and cleanup of him, cleanup of her, and his pornography watching. And at some point, he made himself something to eat.
But why would this kid brutally murder this vivacious woman?
The killer never talked about a motive, ever. And to prove a murder, you don't have to prove motive. We never identified what a motive was.
Whatever it was that caused him to act the way he did, so viciously, it will never be explained.
In court, Arnell Yearwood pleads guilty to the murder of Diane Zaleski. He is sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Oh, he was just a monster. I was disappointed, but I guess that's the maximum you can get. At least there was some accountability, because she deserved that. Her family deserved that.
The family made up black bracelets with white lettering that said "Justice for Diane, November 18th, 2010, which was the date she was murdered. And I wore that bracelet up until the day he pled guilty in court and went to jail. 2.5 years I wore that, and I didn't take it off.
Losing Diane is like a moment in life, like before Diane and after Diane. It's been quite a few years since she's gone, but I do still miss her. Her heart is still with me. She was so real and very kind, and she was funny. And every once in a while, I could feel her. I could feel her presence. And I think I look forward to seeing her someday again.
An ambitious young woman loved by the community.
Everyone was friends with Terry.
She was hardworking, had 2 jobs.
By 21, she owned a home.
Has her future ripped away.
This was a particularly brutal attack.
They stabbed her multiple times on that road.
This would have been a horrifying death.
Police discover unwanted admirers prone to violence.
He was covered in blood and had blood in his hair.
And always carrying a knife.
He was jealous and said that it'd kill her.
But the evidence leads nowhere.
The investigation is getting older and older and harder to solve.
I didn't think we were going to get an answer for this case.
Until a surprise breakthrough.
I was beyond excited. I actually shouted, "Oh my God," at my desk.
Points to a killer off the radar.
Right away, I'm like, who's that guy?
Why? Why did someone do this?
People said, oh, no, he wouldn't kill anybody. But he had this pretend life.
He had no criminal record. He did not emerge as a likely suspect at all.
Germantown, Wisconsin, a sleepy village celebrated as one of the best places to live in America.
I grew up in Germantown. It's, a small community. I would ride my bike to the store for my mom. It was not someplace that you were afraid of.
Germantown is a small town near Milwaukee, a lot of farmland, a lot of open spaces, just a lot of dairy farming, some factories, and homes.
But on May 28th, 1999, this bedroom community wakes to a horrific crime.
Yeah, we're having a body up here on River Lane. There's a green car there, green Pontiac car. She's laying by the cook. There's blood on the road.
I got a phone call that there was a suspected homicide in the industrial park. I immediately went to the crime scene. I saw a vehicle on the side of the road facing west, a large amount of blood in the roadway. I observed what appeared to be footwear impressions in blood. I saw what appeared to be drag marks of blood, 2 large pools of blood, and alongside the vehicle was a female lying face down. When we rolled pulled her over, she had a significant number of what appeared to be stab wounds on her front. She had stab wounds on both sides of her neck.
She had some blood on her hands, and, you know, we're always hoping that there's a fight so she can either scratch the attacker. So the hands were swabbed for DNA.
We proceeded with the perspective. She may have not been expecting it, and things went south very, very fast. I do believe there was rage in this case.
That usually is indicative of personal, that they know each other. It's almost to the point of overkill.
Who was this woman who had been so savagely murdered? Investigators looked to the victim's car for answers.
The vehicle itself appeared to be parked in a reasonable manner alongside the road.
Her car keys were by her body, so she probably had them when she got out of her car and then dropped them in the fight.
The keys indicated that she willingly got out of the vehicle and talked to someone, and then the homicide occurred. The stabbing continued not only in the roadway, but on the grass at 2 different locations, and then it looked like it may have occurred alongside the vehicle.
There's blood spatter and cast off on her wheel, on her hood, on her fender, and up on her windshield.
Her purse was in the vehicle. There was $200 in her purse.
This was not a robbery. This was something else.
After finding a driver's license, police determine the victim is 22-year-old Teresa Wesolowski.
Out on the road, there was tire acceleration marks leading away from the pool of blood in the roadway, as if you put your foot on the accelerator and peeled out, confirming to us that there was another vehicle in front of her where she was more than likely stabbed.
Police comb the crime scene, but no murder weapon is found. As detectives try to make sense of what happened to Teresa, her lifelong best friend Michelle gets a call.
Terry's brother called, and it was early. Not that it was out of the ordinary, because we were all so close. And so I answered, and he's like, Michelle, Terry never came home last night. Well, I'm going to start calling police departments. And Germantown said, we have her name on file. You'll have to come and speak to a detective.
Michelle and Teresa's brother rushed to the station. They had last seen Teresa the day before when she left for work.
I'll never forget, the officer was in front of me. And I said, where is she? And he said, I'm sorry, she's gone. And I just remember screaming. Someone just told me my friend is gone. What does gone mean?
Born in Germantown, Wisconsin, Teresa Wesolowski grew up an outgoing girl with a magnetic personality.
Everyone was friends with Terry. We became best friends in 6th grade. And from that moment on, we were inseparable. We were sisters. There were not many people that called her Teresa. She was always Terry. I think the only time that I remember her being called Teresa was when her mom was mad. When we had done something wrong. It was always just her and I on the playground. I mean, we were just always, I want to say, running the neighborhood, you know? I can't remember a weekend that I wasn't at her house.
As she got older, Teresa was fiercely independent, buying a car at 16 and moving out on her own at 18.
She was working at Cousins Subs in Mequon, and she would go there at 7 a.m., and she would get done by 1, and she would head over to Stone Container, and she would work till 11 o'clock at night.
Despite a heavy work schedule, Teresa loved to be social.
Oh, Terry was fun. You know, Terry liked attention, and she definitely liked the attention from men. Men just seemed more attracted to her. She was young, she was beautiful. Any guy would have wanted that.
How, then, did someone so driven and well-liked meet such a horrible fate?
Young female, you know, at the beginning of her life, getting things together, and it's ended.
Back at the station, investigators reach out to Teresa's family and friends to piece together the hours leading up to her death.
Her shift ended at 11, and the last that anybody saw of her that we know of was that she got into her vehicle and left that parking lot.
During the interviews, detectives get their first tip.
That morning, the officers received a contact from somebody at the Department of Public Works. They had a channel on the same radio system that the police department was on, so they would know that the homicide occurred. They indicated that somebody driving a truck pulled into the parking lot. An individual got out, and they said that he was covered in blood and had blood in his hair.
Is this man somehow connected to the crime scene? Detectives head over to interview the witnesses, who tell police they'd never seen the man before.
We were told the truck driver asked if there was a hospital nearby, and then he indicated now he'd just clean up in the bathroom, which he did, and then left.
It's very common that the person who's doing the attacking gets stabbed too or cuts himself, especially if there's a struggle. Now we had a suspect, a viable suspect, and now we needed to find that person to figure out what happened.
Coming up, detectives uncover suspects with violent tendencies.
He said he can cut people like paper. He could become abusive and violent.
And untangle a web of deception.
Well, he was never married. He didn't have any kids.
He said, I don't want to be a snitch.
Leading them to a suspect they never imagined.
We really felt that we had turned the corner on this case.
It was almost surreal. It got me because it wasn't anyone I knew.
Hours after finding Teresa Wesolowski stabbed to death at the side of the road, police search for a man seen covered in blood at a nearby public works building.
We had a very good police artist. He did a sketch of the individual based on the statements from the witnesses, put the word out there into the community.
While police wait for leads on the bloody man, they shift their attention to Teresa's home to look for clues.
I went down to Teresa's house. We made a search of the residence. I checked the shoes in the residence against the footwear impression at the crime scene, and none of them matched. So the footwear impression at the scene weren't Teresa's.
Investigators talked to Teresa's family and friends, hoping to learn more about her. They learned she was dating someone named Charlie.
Charlie was a young man who didn't hold down a lot of jobs very well. He was staying at his parents' house. They had been dating for a few months prior to her homicide.
We had known Charlie since grade school. We grew up with Charlie. He was 3 years older than us.
We had some people that we interviewed that said they fought a lot or she wanted to break up with him.
I didn't think Charlie was good for anyone. In Terry's mind, he was temporary.
A couple of weeks before her homicide, we found out that he borrowed her car while she was at work and failed to pick her up. She walked to the tavern, and then they got in a bit of an argument, and she finally said enough is enough.
Friends worried how Charlie might react to Teresa moving on.
Some of the people indicated that Teresa told them this boyfriend was jealous and said that if he caught her going out with somebody else, he'd kill her.
He said, give me 2 weeks and you won't have your friend anymore. You're like, what do you mean I won't have my friend?
So that it raises a flag that we have to determine if it got worse after that or was it just a one evening spat.
You know, stabbing is very personal. That usually is indicative that they know each other.
Why did someone do this? What did she do that was so bad that someone had to stab her repeatedly in this crime of passion?
Police immediately bring Charlie in for questioning.
Charlie was very nervous and seemed to act like he didn't really want to be there.
When police ask Charlie where he was the night of the murder, he says he was home.
He lived in the basement of his parents' house, and he was alibied by his mother. I remember the mother claiming there's no way he could get out of this house without me hearing it.
However, he slept in the basement, which the patio door opens up from the basement outside, so he could leave the house without his parents knowing. The times Teresa got off of work at 11 at night and she's found in the morning at 5 or 6 o'clock. So his alibi has weaknesses. It's not airtight.
Could Charlie have snuck out, driven to see Teresa, and murdered her?
Did Charlie have access to a car? He borrowed cars from people a lot. So could he have had a car that night? Yeah, he could have. The homicide's probably less than 5 miles from his house.
Police looked to the tire track evidence.
The tire tracks at the scene were measured and documented. I made contact with the Michigan State Police, who have a database of vehicles. They came back with a list of vehicles based on manufacturer specifications that could have created that. And it's quite a large list.
While detectives continue to investigate Charlie, they also turn to the box factory where Teresa worked.
Whenever you have a homicide like this and it's right down the road from where she worked, obviously your biggest pool of suspects has to be the guys she worked with. There was a fair number of men that were interested in her, and there were some that, had dated her. There were some that wanted to date her.
It wasn't like she was going out and dating them. She just liked hanging out with them.
So we went to the factory to determine who had contact with Teresa, and is there anything that stands out and points to any particular individual as possibly having done this.
We interviewed one of her co-workers named Mark Lebecki. Mark Lebecki worked the same shift as Teresa.
Mark was known as a soft-spoken but well-liked guy at the factory.
He's a very quiet individual, very reserved. Most people would describe him as very mellow.
Working just a few machines away from each other, Mark and Teresa had become close.
He talked to her at work. He was a nice, likable person.
And it got to the point where they developed kind of a friendship.
Unlike the men at the factory who wanted to date Teresa, Mark preferred sharing stories about his family.
Mark Lebecki told Teresa that he had a couple kids and he kept photos of them in his wallet. He would show them to Teresa, saying, "These are my kids."
He talked to her enough to create a relationship that she felt the need to go and talk to him when he needed a friend.
Mark tells police he is saddened by Teresa's death. He also remembers something was off with her the night she died.
He indicated that he saw her that night of the homicide and commented that it looked like she was having a bad day, and she said, yeah, something was jamming in her machine.
She just laughed it off and moved on.
Having no reason to question Mark further, police turned to coworkers with a less amicable relationship with Teresa.
There were some statements from individuals that they observed her having an argument with somebody by the vehicle before the night of the homicide.
The man Teresa was arguing with is identified as her coworker, Isaac Alvarez. When police dig into his background, they find some troubling details.
Isaac Alvarez was just a little bit weird, and he always carried a knife.
At one point, he was upset with a coworker, and he said, "I'm going to cut that cracker, or I'm going to knife that bitch." He told somebody else that, he can cut people like paper.
His comments about cutting up a supervisor, those are the comments that we heard, and those are the comments that kept our interest in him.
To find out more, police look into Isaac's personal life.
His ex-wife indicated that he did have a knife he always kept on his belt, and she indicated that he could become abusive and violent after one drink.
Police bring in Isaac to shed light on his relationship with Teresa and why they were arguing at work.
And in talking to him about Teresa, you could see the emotion coming out of him. This was very stressful for him. That's also the type of stressor that might cause somebody to commit a homicide.
Then, Isaac reveals something else.
He did ask Teresa if she wanted to meet him for a drink. And Teresa, being who Teresa was, she didn't say, "No way." She said, "Well, we'll see." He shows up and she's not there. Is that rejection?
Had Teresa's rejection sent Isaac into a murderous rage?
We asked Isaac to take a polygraph. Because of Isaac's strange behaviors, outbursts, maybe prone to violence, and always carrying a knife. And he was seen in the parking lot area that night. He was on our main suspect list.
While investigating the stabbing death of Teresa Wesolowski, police focus on her coworkers.
She's working in a factory populated by mostly men. That sets up a scenario where you're going to have people trying to ask her out. She was outgoing and she was friendly, so people could perceive that as being led on, where in fact she was probably just being nice.
She always tried to let him down easy. She would always be like, well, I don't want to hurt his feelings. She just wanted to make sure that they still wanted to be her friend.
At the police station, investigators interview one of those workers, Isaac Alvarez. Witnesses saw Isaac argue with Teresa before the night of her death.
Isaac's alibi, when he was interviewed, he was home. He lives with a 50-plus-year-old lady. His story was he went to bed at 9 o'clock, and he may have had a conversation with her when she came home, but he doesn't recall. She says she had a conversation with him 11:15, 11:30 at night, and she thought it was around 1 o'clock when he went to bed. It's a little different than his story. Well, in his case, is that person willing to lie for you? We don't know. So that's not an airtight alibi.
Police convince Isaac to take a polygraph.
He was somewhat deceptive and not answering the questions in the proper manner. And so we believe that he was trying to skew the results of the polygraph.
You couldn't get a good answer from him.
So because of that, it was ruled inconclusive.
Without any hard evidence, police can't charge Isaac for the crime. While detectives look for more leads, Teresa's autopsy report arrives.
Based on the injury patterns, the attack was a surprise attack because we did not see a significant amount of defensive type injuries. And then she was pinned in a prone or face down position. I individually identified and labeled 47 separate stab wounds. This would have been a horrifying death for any individual.
As police review evidence, they follow up on the lead on the bloody man from the Department of Public Works.
They had a sketch made of this unknown person that stopped at the garage to wash up.
We put it out there. The individual didn't come forward. It was out in the press. It was in the newspaper. I did go back and re-interview the witnesses, but nothing came back of evidentiary value.
Police also continue interviewing Teresa's friends.
I always protected Terry. So when she was killed, I had no purpose anymore. And so I gave my all to whatever they needed. It was hours and hours and hours of interviews with the police, trying to give them everything that I knew about every person we had ever hung out with, for me to help them to hopefully find who did this.
One of the people detectives learn about is Jerry Kirkpatrick.
So Jerry Kirkpatrick was a delivery guy to Cousins where Teresa worked.
Friends say Jerry asked Teresa out numerous times.
I don't think she was looking to have a relationship with him. He was definitely interested in her.
That's the indication that we got, that he was pursuing her more than she was pursuing him.
Police learn about one encounter with Jerry that left Teresa unsettled.
I thought I saw Jerry before she died at the club, just watching us. And it gave me this feeling like, why is he here? Like, he shouldn't know we're here. Why is he standing off in the shadows? It was a very creepy feeling.
So the question is Jerry stalking her?
But then, Teresa's friends point out something else disturbing about Jerry.
They thought he might be similar to the picture of the person that was at the Department of Public Works. The drawing looked like him.
Officers immediately interview Jerry at his home. Jerry denies he is the man in the sketch. He claims he was at a bar with his stepbrother the night of Teresa's murder, then went home before midnight.
There was alibi information that was confirming of the statement. When he got home, he called for a pizza to be delivered, and that was confirmed subsequently with phone records. He let us look at his vehicle. We examined the interior or exterior. Nothing of evidentiary value was located in that examination.
Then, investigators make a startling discovery.
There were knives found at Jerry Kirkpatrick's residence.
A lot of times we'd ask people, do you have knives? And can we see those knives? Do you mind if we have them tested? A lot of times that's done for reaction. So he presents 4 or 5 knives. He did let us look at them when we were at the house. We even submitted them to the crime lab to have it analyzed.
While investigators wait for results, Jerry's landlord delivers some alarming news.
What happens within the next few days is he talks to his landlord about breaking his lease.
Jerry Kirkpatrick decided to move out of town, and that's in the midst of being interviewed and investigation. So right away, that raises our suspicion.
Was Jerry trying to give detectives the slip?
It is clearly a red flag, and we have to look at that behavior as being possibly flight behavior. So we want to find out why.
While investigating Jerry Kirkpatrick for the brutal stabbing of 22-year-old Teresa Wesolowski, detectives learn from Jerry's landlord he's about to skip town.
The landlord who the police were talking to Jerry. We were actually notified by the Milwaukee Police Department because the landlord had thought, hey, this is odd, and called them. He says he's going to move to Tennessee. One of the aspects you look at in a homicide, is there any flight behavior after the homicide? Well, breaking your lease and moving to Tennessee might be described as flight behavior. We did confirm that he put money on a place on that Friday after the homicide.
But when investigators get the lab results back on Jerry's knives, the case takes a frustrating turn.
Nothing came back of evidentiary value.
Somebody having a collection of knives is not that uncommon, especially in Wisconsin. And the quick move that he made is something strange, but, you know, there's nothing we can do about it. If he wants to move, he can move.
Police have one more lead to follow. Jerry's resemblance to the bloody man at the Public Works building.
He fit that description. We actually did an in-person lineup with Jerry, and he was not picked out by the individuals that observed this person driving the truck.
That person was never identified and never located.
Without any hard evidence linking Jerry to the murder, police have to let him go. Weeks go by, and investigators worry the case will grow cold.
We're doing interviews. Some people we're re-interviewing, but as time moves on, the investigation is getting older and older and harder to solve.
As the weeks turn into months, investigators doggedly work the case.
Well, I technically could have retired about 5 years before I did. A lot of it is to bring justice for the victim, but also to bring some sort of resolution or closure for the family.
The police kept telling me that it was